This is my live reaction to Pisco and Econoboi versus Destiny and Counterpoints. Now, this is going to be a long reaction. I'll try to give plenty of commentary. If I get burnt out, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'll end it. But this one's going to be long because I'm genuine. I think this is such an interesting conversation. I don't know anything that happens. Obviously, this happens on Wix channel, wix.tv. Go check it out. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure the link's in my description because I respect Wick enough to put in my description. I make content from it. Shout out. But should we court the far left? I just had a podcast episode recently, so this is probably going to come out. It might come out before the podcast episode. I'll have to think about it. No, it's going to come out after. I'll think about it. Ultimately, the thing is, we should probably have a conversation that the normal people in the Democrat Party should completely disown the far left because those people are unhinged. All right, let's go.
Together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today we are going to be talking about what I consider a very important issue.
I will be eating for the people who hated me when I ate last time because I'm hungry.
Do we consider the far left? Which is more of a threat to America in general? The question was asked, who would you vote for, Hassan or Trump? And I think it's an interesting thought experiment to go through. There were some disagreements, so I thought I'd gather people together to hash those out and have a discussion on it. Just a note before we begin, I know there's some tensions are high in different communities and things like that, so I might be a little more heavy-handed on moderation than I normally would be because I do want the topic itself to be discussed at least a little. But other than that, I'm just going to give the mic to you guys and let you guys go at it. We're going to hand the mic first to Econoboi, give his thoughts, and then we'll just kind of go around. Econoboi, start us off.
Yeah. So, for those listening, the topic is courting the far left. I take that to be essentially a political and strategic discussion about whether or not and how exactly we should or should not court the far left. And the way that I think of the far left, there's a lot of polls on this. Based on all the research that I was able to do, about 10% of people that vote for Democrats call themselves socialist, and about another 10% call themselves extremely liberal. So if we were to think Kamala got about 49% of the vote, that's to say that something like 10% of those people are either extremely liberal or socialist by their self-identification. And so I think that what that means to me is that we should take what those people say, those actually existing far left voters, seriously. That to the extent that they have demands, they should have a seat at the table. We should try to come up with some sort of coalition and platform that can balance the needs and desires of the far left and the very, very center.
I'm always skeptical when it comes to polling, not necessarily because I don't think it's true, but because I don't think it tells the full story. Because someone's own characterization of who they are could be a different description of who I would believe them to be, right? Like someone could consider themselves really liberal because they stand for like economic liberal policies that I do think are good, like universal health care. But I would consider them different from people who hate the fucking country and think that all of America is bad. And think that America is the most evil country, caused all the wars, all that bullshit that Hassan says, right?
Interest in the party, recognizing that we're in a big tent. And then when it comes to anti-electoral leftists and anti-democratic leftists, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the show, I think that to the extent that those people have big platforms, Democrats should engage with those platforms. So if Pete Buttigieg wants to go on Hassan's stream and espouse the greatness of his campaign or the Democratic Party or something, I don't really have a big problem with that. But I don't think that people like that should be part of the inner party or should be invited to the DNC. Somebody like Mamdani, if he becomes the mayor of New York, probably should get a speaking spot at the DNC, but probably not people like Hassan, because it's not clear to me that Hassan is quote unquote an ally of the Democratic Party. And what I'll say is one last thing. I'll say that, I think Destiny had said
it's pretty clear. Hassan made it very clear he's not an ally to the Democratic Party. I think that's what they're going to focus on, this softball. Hassan is an enemy to the Democratic Party.
At some point, he had clarified that essentially people who use the label of socialist should be treated like Nazis. I take that to mean that they should be very harshly socially excluded from the broader movement of the Democratic Party or the broader left. But I think that would be extremely counterproductive because, again, these are just a big chunk of the people of the Democratic Party. I think I get accused of wanting to shrink the tent because I want to primary pro-filibuster senators, right? on ideological grounds. But I think to say that we should shun basically everyone that calls themselves a socialist in the Democratic Party, that's to say that we should shun essentially 10% of the base, which is, I don't know, I just think that's much more counterproductive than just trying to build a coalition with them.
Okay, thank you, and we will get into it as we go. I'm going to hand the mic next to Pisco. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it obviously depends on what you mean by court and what you mean by the far left. So obviously, like, I would be in support if by far left you mean people like Mamdani, people like AOC, these kinds of people who identify, Bernie Sanders as a socialist. I think that there are absolutely things that we can agree on with socialists, and we're a big enough coalition if what you mean by far left includes those people. But ultimately, this is a conversation I think about semantics. What is the far left? Who are the group of people who are like anti-liberal or anti-constitutional that you want to exclude? And to what extent do you want to exclude them? Does exclude mean invite them, don't invite them to create a party platform? Does exclude mean not interact with them in any respect, even as Econoboi mentioned, to like use their platform either for a debate or to like promote the candidacy or to try to convince people? I don't know if I'll go that far. I certainly wouldn't want to incorporate any Marxist-Leninist ideas into the Democratic platform. If that,
I think you can exclude someone and still go on their platform. Like, Tucker Carlson, for example, I wouldn't mind going on Tucker Carlson or Tim Pool, but I exclude them from my values. Like, they 100% do not align with what I believe. So if I'm a Democrat, I exclude Tim Pool and Tucker Carlson. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't go on their platform. You can still go on their platform, but also exclude them.
That's what's being meant by courting the voters or courting the far left. So ultimately, it's a semantic argument, but we're not here for that. We're here because, in my opinion, there's been a bad faith campaign to basically smear me and Econoboi and Josiah as having moved to the far left, as having put space in our coalition to really allow for anti-democratic, anti-constitutional ideas and to not push back on them. And I think what you'll find that there are tensions right now, I think, in the different coalitions, the different viewer bases, but they don't have to do with a big substantive disagreement. I encourage everyone who's watching, actually look during the course of this conversation, how much disagreement substantively is there going to be? If we're talking about like this semantic game about what a socialist is a socialist a Nazi? Stephen is going to just fucking get crushed on that argument by Econoboi in terms of what a normal person means by the term socialist and how those terms are used. If he can produce any evidence whatsoever that me, Econoboi, or anyone on Live and Learn did something wrong in like bringing on the vanguard, notice if he can bring up anything that shows that we are taking a kind of illiberal approach or trying to do some kind of bad faith, like a
it's kind of crazy that Destiny just be burning bridges, bro. That seemed like, bro, I hate you. And to be fair, I gotten pretty tense with some of my friends, especially recently. But Jesus, man, like there's some hate there. I could sense it.
Courting of the tanky vote. If he can point to any specifics, or we're really just going to have more fucking nitpicking on the sides, while he encourages and frankly, I think smears us as tankies, anti-liberal, and anti-constitutional. So I'm here definitely to get clarity on terms and to notice actually what is the room of substantive disagreement here, or is all of this a fugazi to cover up spite and personal conflict between him and other streamers? And is there really evidence that we're moving to the tanky left or the illiberal left?
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I'm sure we will get into all of that. Let's give it first to Counterpoints. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my issue with this whole thing is that there are socialists, which I define, I think, in a good faith way for the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. There are also communists who believe that the end result of our material analysis should be a moneyless, stateless, classless society. I think these people exist. I think they have clout. I think they have influence. And I would use specific examples in our sphere of influence, like Erin or Straight Raid, who says that she's a communist. I would use the examples like Hassan Piker, who I just watched earlier today, is effectively holding hands with Marxist-Leninists and saying that he is a Marxist-Leninist. He's just, playing softy with the Social Democrats and the Democratic Socialists. That way he can get clout and influence and then radicalize them down a funnel. So for me, what I'm trying to point out is that if you pretend that this person is normal and nice and fine and a part of the coalition, then you're going to lose the moderates, you're going to lose the center right, and for every leftist you probably lose two or three moderates. So the Vanguard, I have no idea what their politics are. I would frankly love to speak to them specifically about their politics, but if MLs are a part of the coalition, you're losing people. You're being politically ineffective. That's my argument.
Okay, thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, Destiny, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that when I was making the rounds debating Nazis in 2016 to 2018, one of the most common things that I heard from kind of like the centrists that basically gave more credence to all of the far right ideas was point to where I support this. Show me where I said that I'm racist. Show me where I said that I hate Jewish people, or I'm anti-Semitic, or I'm trying to be a white supremacist. And there was always this like annoying fight that I would have to do where in order to start debating the Nazis, I'd have to chew through all of these epic centrists first who would say, well, I'm just a classical liberal. I'm Sargon of Akkad. I'm not actually a white supremacist. I just happen to give cover cover for all of these people. I don't think Econoboi or Pisco or Josiah or any of these other people, I don't think they're becoming tankies or anything like that. I just think there's a very annoying cover that's given to a lot of these people where there's like, we can 100% discern and decipher every single intention that Donald Trump has. We have no problem calling him a fascist outright. But then when you have people that hate the Democrats, that shit on our candidates, that attack everybody on our side constantly, we're like, well, I don't know what they really think or how they really feel. Or when it comes to people like Hassan, like even earlier today in my subreddit, Econoboi, when asked about supporting Hassan, will say things like, well, I don't think I necessarily agree with him on everything. He says, I don't have a generally positive view of Hassan, and I think I would flatly agree with many of the criticisms levied at Hassan. That's just in my mind, even though it seems like there's some kind of separation there. That's just a wild statement to make from somebody who openly supports terrorist groups that kill civilians, or openly supports enemies of the United States, or openly supports the subversive.
I agree. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it. It's a very simple thing to understand. And the how you say it proves more on what your true emotions, what your true feelings on that individual is, and your intention of how you're speaking of them. How you say things is more valuable than what you say, because the politics game is all about what you say. But in order to truly understand the individuals and what they represent, you have to master the art of how they say it. It's annoying, but it's just true.
Propagandizing of our entire political party to hijack the entire movement to destroy, if not the Democratic Party, maybe even all of the entire United States of America. So I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't think it behooves us to just say all of this is a semantic disagreement. I think it's actually really important to define what a leftist is, because I think that it's important for the people to know where everybody stands, and it's important to get rid of people that are intentionally trying to obscure their beliefs and come in under the guise of being a leftist without actually stating, what their position is, and then having this like this dual role that they get to play where they can propagandize people and radicalize them without actually ever stating what it is they're trying to do. Like, are you for the complete total abolition of?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm more than likely going to very much, because I made the same criticisms already about this whole entire situation on my own. So I'm probably going to align with Destiny and Counterpoints a lot in this. But we'll see. If I hear anything that I disagree with, I'll say it.
Our democracy, or are you just somebody who wants the government to do more stuff?
And just to get clarity, so we know what we're talking about, Destiny, are you saying that Econoboi and Pisco are running cover for those leftists that you think are infecting the Democratic Party, or however you want to put it, right?
Yes, but I don't think it's like like they're secretly tanky and so they want to provide cover for their tanky friends. I think it's more just like this. There's something that happens in the Democrat brain, and I've been guilty of it too, where you're so obsessively trying to seem like even-handed that you get rooted out in this world where you're like, I'm trying to be fair and I don't want to have like Hassan derangement syndrome, so I'm just going to say, they're not that bad. I don't know that much about any of this. I'm not sure, whatever. But what it happens, what it causes is this reality where, the conversation for this podcast, what was talked about earlier, was should we appeal to leftists when it comes to gaining political power? When do leftists talk about appealing to liberals to try to gain political power? Or when do leftists say, hey, maybe we should chill on shitting on the party?
I mean, I think it's one of two things, though. It's like, one is common enemy. The idea that has been said multiple times is that the common enemy, the main enemy, is MAGA and Donald Trump. So if everybody that aligns with that final principle of this guy is the worst, you're going to align with them. We see that happen time and time again. Another perfect example of that is right now with Israel, where people like Anna Kasparian and Tucker Carlson are now aligning themselves with each other because the common enemy is Israel. I think that is what's going on with Pisco and Econoboi. The common enemy is MAGA. So even though Hassan might be X, Y, and Z, he is not as bad as MAGA because that is the enemy. So you are able to align with them and soft tone things that they do. So it's something that happens quite frequently. There's another thing that could be happening here as well is I forgot the other thing, but that was the biggest one.
Forever and ever when it comes to getting political power.
Common enemy
only ever on the Democratic side of things. That's just very wild to me.
Okay. The floor is open. Go ahead.
I was going to say they do.
I have a question.
I
have a question. Yeah. So this is both to Connor and to Stephen. Should some socialists, at least some, be catered to, be appealed to, and be part of the coalition?
No.
So you would agree, therefore, that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Mamdani should not be catered to and part of the coalition, correct?
Depends what you mean when you say catered to.
Should they, for instance, ahead of the ticket?
I think I disagree. I think some can. The thing is, it depends on what you mean by socialist, right? I think AOC, Bernie, and Mamdani can, because unless I get new information, I don't think they're true socialists. I think they adopted a principle. I think they adopted socialist principle that they want to utilize in an American system. I don't think they want to change the American system to a socialist system, if you know what I mean. So I think it can be fine, depending on what you mean by socialism, what the socialists themselves consider themselves when it comes to the inbred nature of what socialism is. There's a lot of details there. I know an outright answer is easy, but I said it's a cop out. It depends.
Being a socialist like AOC, Mamdani, if they are the nominees, should we support them?
Yes, but that doesn't mean you're catering to socialism.
Okay, but you understand.
Wait, hold on. Wait. You recognize that supporting somebody at the top of a ticket. Well, if you want to play the yes or no question, I can play the same game. You understand that supporting somebody being at the top of the ticket doesn't mean that you are centrally supporting their ideology. For instance, it's possible to cater to, in a roundabout way, people that are further to the left of you without catering to far leftist beliefs, right?
Correct, but you would agree that, like, if the socialist is at the top of the ticket, socialists like Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party should support the socialists at the top of the ticket, correct?
It depends what you mean by support. Generally, yeah, I think you should support.
Okay, so you're okay with socialists being part of the coalition, correct?
I don't really know if I consider Bernie Sanders or AOC to be like socialists.
And why is that exactly?
That's where I'm at.
Because I don't think that they like fit under conventional definitions of socialism.
Do they want the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production?
Yeah, so that's your definition. That's your proprietary definition of socialism.
That's
you agree.
most socialist definition. So, Econoboi, do you disagree with my definition?
Yeah. Okay. So just to hop in here. So yeah, I disagree that is. Okay, do you want me to answer the question, Connor?
Give Econoboi space to answer. Go ahead, Econoboi, please.
So,
I want you to do a line of Adderall.
Let Econoboi answer. Go ahead.
I probably should have done an edible instead of Adderall before entering this debate. But to answer your question, similar to capitalism, socialism is a diverse universe of people. There's a lot of people who call themselves socialists. Some of them are Marxist-Leninists. Some of them are like what you might call like moderate, like right-wing socialists, I guess, like me, who say that we should just collectivize the ownership of production. People have different ways of defining these things. For instance, capitalism includes people all the way from Fabian Liberty to people like Destiny, who basically endorses the Nordic model, right? And they're both capitalists, right? And so I think that of the 10% of people who call themselves socialists and are part of the Democratic Party base, obviously that's a very diverse group of people, ranging from the exact, essentially, people that I just mentioned as well. And I think that's a very sensible way to look at who calls himself socialist and why. To Destiny's point of
Mamdani's not a socialist, or that Bernie's not a socialist. That's crazy.
Just one more sentence to Destiny's point about when do like the left wingers ever cater to the moderates? Well, I mean, I seem to remember people like Bernie Sanders and AOC taking very collaborative positions with people like Biden when he was in office, and I seem to recall.
I think they need to distinguish the difference between Mamdani, Bernie, and AOC to people like Hassan and the Vanguard. That's the line they have to draw immediately in this conversation.
Like Mamdani, he took a very collaborative position with people like Brad Lander. And Mamdani's campaign, to the extent that it appealed to people broader than just the left wing, he made that conscious decision to do that. He didn't run on a campaign of seizing the means of production. He ran on a campaign of like freezing the rent and providing childcare to people, right? I mean, I take that to be in some sense a means to cater to a broader base of people than just left wingers, essentially.
So I think that if we want to talk about catering to socialists, I think that the issue that we have is there exists a world where you have a bunch of like Bernie Sanders, AOC, maybe Mamdani types of people that are part of your movement and part of your coalition. And I think that if we lived in a world where there was a rich media environment with a lot of people who were socialists, who, you know, some supported the liberals, some kind of didn't, and some were like really against it, then we could have that conversation. But right now, it seems basically ubiquitous across the entirety of the left-wing media landscape to aggressively and violently shit on and attack Democratic candidates as harshly as possible. I just saw, and I'm sure you guys saw, that Vanguard tweet saying that Pete Buttigieg looked like and smelled like a rat. Pete is one of the most like popular Democratic figures making the rounds on shows. I just watched Crystal Ball fucking roast the fuck out of a senator from Michigan because she wouldn't give like the singular one.
All right, the distinction is being made. Now it's time to respond to this because I agree on what Destiny is saying right now.
Answer on the Gazan issue. If this is the world we're going to live in, where you want to say, oh, well, socialism encompasses a broad range of people. But when I looked at the media environment, almost every single person that would even flirt with the label socialist relentlessly shits on the Democratic Party. I don't know if I can really say, yeah, sure, we should also appeal to these people. It's just not the right media environment.
There's a definition here, which is you're saying that Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani are not socialists. Explain that.
That's not really responsive to anything I just said.
No, because you were not responsive to the issue at hand, which has to do with the definition. Yeah. So the question is, if you're
all right, I have to chime in. This commentary is necessary. Pisco is asking the correct question because Destiny didn't address it, but Destiny also addressed something larger that also ties into it. So this is why I said what I said, right? you got to distinguish the difference between Bernie, AOC, and Mamdani versus Vanguard, Crystal, and fucking Hassan. That distinguishment will end this line of questioning. So once I distinguish that, that'll be valuable. Destiny already considers that there's a distinguishment because he used Bernie and he may have used AOC as well as a means to associate it with the Democratic Party, and then calls the socialists these individuals that I'm talking about, the vanguards, right? So there's already a distinguishment in Destiny's mind. He already made it in his brain. He just didn't say what that distinguishment is. And Pisco is trying to find what that distinguishment is. Sorry, I'm eating while I'm talking. That's why I'm like,
we're defining socialism to only include the people that Steven doesn't like, then maybe there's not actually a disagreement here in terms of who like should be leading the party or something.
So I wasn't defining socialism with people I don't like. I was defining socialism. So we can talk about definition of socialism. What I'm looking at right now is the socialist media environment. My earlier argument was that I don't know if I would even consider like Bernie Sanders and AOC to be hardcore socialists. If I wanted to supply that argument, sure, socialists at all. Well, right now, who are the socialists all shitting on almost more than anybody else? AOC and Bernie Sanders. So I mean,
whether they're shitting on them or not, Steven, whether they're shitting them or not isn't the question. That's a separate question. Are they shitting or not shitting? The question is, should socialists be part of the coalition? You just said that Bernie isn't a socialist. He identifies as such. AOC is not a socialist. She identifies as such. Mamdani isn't a socialist. She identifies as such. What's your evidence they're not socialists?
So identifying as a political thing doesn't make you that political thing. That's a tautology and that would be nonsense, number one. And number two, the question wasn't should they be part of the coalition. The question is should we appeal to them? Those are two fundamentally completely different questions.
Destiny, to be clear though, you're narrowing your position. It was just last night when you said explicitly anyone that uses the socialist label should be treated like a Nazi, right? Now
in the media environment is what we're talking about. I'm commenting on your show.
Then Destiny. Okay, well that's what you said last night. We're clarifying just people within the media environment. Then I'm just saying that that's a useful narrowing of the discussion. Then because
you can call it a narrowing if you want, but anybody that's watched I don't shit on AOC, I don't shit on Bernie Sanders either, and I've been supportive of Mamdani for the.
I think useful is one way to put about it. I think useful is one way to put it. I think Weasley is another way.
Relax, Pisco. Yeah, you guys are getting a little too much. I mean, they're both right here. That's why, like, I agree semantics are important in this conversation, but I also think that the main point of the conversation is to differentiate the media socialist versus the political socialist, right? Just to give it a qualifying term. That's where the conversation is. Everything else right here is just like, Destiny, I hate you because of my past. Pisco, I hate you because of my past. Wine, boo boo, get over it.
Put it, and I think it is Weasley. I think you're backing off of the strong position. The strong position is socialists shouldn't be a part of our fucking coalition. And now when you're getting pushed, I guess now it's the media environment. And now it's but you took the strong
I didn't say socialists shouldn't be part of the coalition. I said we shouldn't be trying to actively appeal to socialists. Do you understand that those are two separate things?
They're different statements. Correct. They're different statements. But you said
no. They mean fundamentally two completely different things.
They're two different statements that mean different things. They're two different statements that mean two different things. But your position, is it your position, therefore, that the Democrats should, as part of their coalition in terms of who to vote for, what kind of policy support, to humor people like Mamdani, humor people like AOC, and humor people like Bernie Sanders? And if that's the truth, then I think that
I don't know what that statement means. Should they humor them? Like, what does that mean? Like, put them on the ballot? I don't know what that question means.
So should they just have a seat at the table? Whatever you take that seat at the table.
That's what
I'm asking you. So for example, you're the one who says that we need to excise these people from the party. I actually don't know what you mean by that. So whatever your vision of having a seat at the table, not being excised is, whatever you're using when you say these people need to be gone. Under that definition, do you think?
Sure. Let's let Destiny. Those are good questions, Pisco, and I'd like to know the answers too, right? What do you mean, Destiny, when you say we need to excise these people? How do you see that?
Yeah, my fixation is almost universally on the media environment when I'm having these conversations. I think when I was watching you guys talk, it was also generally on although sometimes you guys would try to go back to AOC, but like politicians operate kind of in a different world than the media environment operates in. Most of my criticism on the media environment that all calls themselves like leftists or socialists seem to relentlessly shit on Democrats. And I just think it's a really unhealthy and bad world. Again, where you see a Michigan senator wants to dip her toes into the podcasting world. And one of the jokes I made about Kamala is one of the reasons why she probably didn't do any shows is because she would get fucked by the right, the centrist, and the left, and she goes on a leftist show and she gets fucking shit on because they only want to talk about fucking Palestine. There's a senator from a blue state, from Michigan. Jesus, that's insane to me. And it would be nice if we actually had like a strong center-left position and a strong center-left media apparatus, and not just a bunch of leftists who fucking hate the party.
Do you understand our position to be that we disagree with your assessment that leftists constantly?
Crazy. Literally, we just talked about this recently in a podcast episode I just did with my boy Danny. But let me be very clear. I agree with Destiny. We need a stronger center left. Destiny, your bitch ass. Yeah, I'm not them call it Destiny, right? Your bitch ass. All right, let me take the cussing back because no, fuck it. I have captioned that now. Let me take this out of my mouth, bro, so I can talk visceral, because that thing pisses me off. No, give me 1 second, right? I want every single space in my mouth to be for words and not food. What? Destiny, you just said that we need a stronger center-left media environment. Your bitch ass could be that strong media center-left environment, but you are constantly putting yourself in positions to ruin your social credibility off of bullshit that you don't need to do, like making dumbass jokes and getting in dumbass drama and burning dumbass bridges. So, although I agree with your sentiment, the far left is a toxic environment to win any political favor with moderates. You also should look yourself in the fucking mirror and go like, maybe with my influence and my size and the amount of people who know who I am, maybe if I started an environment to push the center left rhetoric, or at the very least a nuanced political media rhetoric that is more productive than MAGA and the fucking far left, then that would be very good. But I can't, because I make edgy jokes that are fucking dog shit sometimes, and then I'm also in drama, and then I'm also super trolly and in bullshit, social bullshit all the time. And like, come on, like, accountability, Destiny. You can't say that while you're also in that position. You could be doing exactly what you're saying, but you won't, because of all the stuff you're constantly in.
Shit on the Democrats. You think that we disagree on that?
I'm not sure all the time. I can't tell.
You're not sure. So we're here to discuss something where you're not sure if we agree with you on the position that the lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways we don't like. We agree that lefties constantly shit on Democrats that in ways that we don't like. We agree with Hutch, for example, when they constantly shit on people like Biden in certain ways, even though I shit on Biden in some respects. We agreed on the AOC tweets that they shouldn't have shit on her that way. And so there's no disagreement there. So that obviously isn't what we're here to discuss.
It's not about that.
We're unsure that we disagree on.
Energy.
I wasn't saying that we had it was very strong that we massively disagreed there. What was Counterpoints saying?
Okay, I got something I massively disagree with. So, okay, I think that every single leftist that I've talked to online, anybody who has any kind of political knowledge whatsoever, defines socialists as decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production, and they use that definition repeatedly. I think that my frustration is that there are a bunch of quote unquote social democrats who talk about universal health care, or they talk about making rent cheaper or some shit like that, which are social democratic Scandinavian policies. And I think they're using the term socialism backdoor in order to rehabilitate the image of this. And not just that, Hassan Piker and plenty of far lefties, plenty of MLs, probably the Vanguard as well, they're ecstatic that this is happening. They're ecstatic that Mamdani has social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that AOC have social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that Bernie Sanders have social democrat policies, because it rehabilitates the word in my mind. That shift of the Overton window to the fucking far left is an insidious plot by twats to manipulate the Democratic Party further left, and it's going to ruin electoralism.
So we're going to get some actual clarity here. So to be clear, Stephen, you don't disagree that people like Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie, they're fine to be in the party, and we're fine to appeal to the kind of issues that they care about in their positions, correct? You don't have a problem with that?
I would hold on, real quick.
I'm asking Stephen a question. I'm going to get to you and see if you disagree with Stephen, actually.
Second, I want to say something before you and Destiny talk for the next 40 fucking minutes. What I would say is that if the socialists are proposing social democrat policy, but then they get what they want, and then they try to yank the political window further left, that is something 100% that I oppose. Destiny, you and Pisco, go ahead and fight for the next.
Wait, no, I know. I just want to ask, and I'll ask. I'm going to go to you, Connor, and see if you agree with Destiny, because I think we might all have a more disagreement with you, Connor, than we have within each other in terms of the substantive opinion. So I'm going to ask Stephen, do you have a problem with these people, the people identified, Mamdani, Sanders, AOC, being part of the Democratic coalition, and however you define Democratic coalition, and having their positions catered to, or people having their positions in general as part of the Democratic coalition? Do you have a problem with that?
Okay, so there's two separate questions. So one, like generally, I'm probably almost always going to support a blue candidate over a red candidate in this current media environment, or in this current political environment, number one. But number two, when you say, do you have a problem appealing to them? I mean, that means different things. If you say, like, would I have a problem if we were to appeal to Bernie Sanders coming out and saying, I want to socialize all of the means of productions in the United States, I would have a problem with that. But if you're saying, do you have a problem appealing to Bernie and AOC and Mamdani saying, we need to find ways to make, rent cheaper in cities, and that might mean
just say support, bro. I don't give a fuck about all these semantics. Like, semantics is good, but the general perception is, do you support a candidate? Would you be okay with voting for this candidate? That's it. All right. It doesn't necessarily mean you agree with every single policy that they advocate for. You know what I'm saying?
policy like rent control that I personally don't like, but you know, if they want to try it, I mean, I wouldn't be like fundamentally opposed to having that as part of my party's platform. Then no, I mean, like it would depend on what things we're talking about appealing to.
Like, agreed. You're okay with the socialist being at the top of the Democratic ticket in the sense of socialist.
But again, but this is part of the issue. You call
correct?
it
Is that right or no? Am I wrong?
This is not like a simple thing. You're like doing like the what is a woman at me? What is a socialist?
No,
I'm
asking you. Do you have a problem with Bernie Sanders being at the top of the ticket?
You gotta let Destiny answer.
That's a specific question.
Top of the ticket? No, like if him being a senator from Vermont, no. If he was president, probably not.
Yeah. So
when you say a socialist, if you're talking about somebody who wants to abolish by law all of private enterprise and maybe even attack the democratic underpinnings of our political parties, right, and have a single party rule, I would be opposed to that.
But that doesn't describe Bernie. It doesn't describe Mamdani. It doesn't describe AOC. Correct?
No, but Mamdani, Bernie, and AOC are on the outer perimeter of what is considered socialist, and they're attacked by the center part of what is socialist.
Oh my God, they have debate. Man, I need to stop eating while I'm talking. They have debate brain on right now, where what Pisco asked is very reasonable. Destiny, all he had to do is say yes. We're so focused on this aspect. We've already determined that there is a difference between the two, a political socialist and a media socialist, but we just keep on rehashing because someone wants a debate win. This shit is childish. Like, what are we doing?
That's my issue. You could probably find an outer perimeter fascist that I might be okay with. If he's some fascist who's like, yeah, I think we should protect America as an ethno-state, and I'm defining ethno-state as like the current ethnic composition of America, and I think that we should have like stronger rules on immigration. I was like, yeah, I probably fucking support this or whatever.
The problem is that, like, and you understand, and Econoboi laid this out, that Bernie, AOC, these types, they come from a long tradition of democratic socialists from like UK, Australia. He brought up Clement Attlee, and this is not some fringe movement. These are democratic socialists that exist in countries all over the world. So we're not talking about this idiosyncratic belief of socialism. It's a version of socialism that exists, and you're okay with it being part of the party. So the question isn't one of categorical. You're okay with some socialists. You would vote for some socialists. I'll ask Connor the same question. Connor, are you okay with someone like Bernie Sanders being on the top of the ticket, AOC being on the top of the ticket of the Democratic Party?
No, I would either abstain from voting or I would fucking vote against them. Like, for instance, if there's a moderate Republican compared to AOC or Bernie, not that moderate Republicans exist anymore, but if they existed, I would pick a moderate Republican over AOC or Bernie.
I think the bigger disagreement between you and Destiny there. I think Destiny's okay with some socialists.
To be clear,
part of Democratic coalition.
Connor's a Republican. So I'm expecting to say that. Yeah, no shit. But voting for somebody is a lot different than appealing to somebody. These are two different things, and we keep playing like this like clever game of trying to.
Where do you think? Let Destiny finish. Hold on. Let Destiny finish his thought, please.
Well, that's it. No, I'm just saying that like appealing to somebody is a lot different than voting for somebody. I'm guessing if I was in New York and there was a plethora of candidates, Mamdani probably wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd probably vote for him in the primary, or I'm sorry, in the general. But that doesn't mean I would like want to appeal to a socialist or whatever.
I agree that
like we have to. I think there's a useful thing to look at what this actually looks like in actually existing politics, right? So in 2016, when Bernie Sanders got 45% of the vote in the primary, something like that, he was involved in the platform committee for the DNC. He was like a main speaker at the DNC in 2016. He was able to extract a lot of concessions to the party. Like I think that because of him, the party added in marijuana legalization, a $15 hour minimum wage. I think carbon pricing, and I think maybe there was some stuff about the death penalty. I want to say that was something that Bernie Sanders really pushed to add into the Democratic Party platform. You know, and again, that's like a very direct appeal to Bernie Sanders and like an appeal to the unity between the centrists and the socialists and the Democratic Socialists.
No, nothing. What policy there was socialist?
Okay, so Destiny,
here's where we ran into the problem, because nothing that you just said there was socialist. And there's this game that's played where
Destiny, you're wrong about that. You're completely wrong. Okay,
15 an hour is socialist.
Okay, do you think a progressive income tax is socialist?
Not necessarily, no.
Right. So the Communist Manifesto proposed a progressive income tax, right? So
does that make it a socialist policy?
I would say, generally speaking, that the Communist Manifesto, the manifesto of the Communist Party, like it probably is something of an authority on what it means to be a communist policy.
The Communist Manifesto is a pamphlet made so that farmers could read it and join a revolution against the state.
The only reason
we're going back to this planning document with all like what
the only reason
aspects of communism and socialism.
We're playing some weird games again. I did a video that's coming out that it might come out before this, might come out after this. I don't know. But it basically explains what is socialism. So honestly, this video is perfect for this current climate. And I kind of described it, and I related it to Mamdani, and I related it to Scandinavian countries. A lot of misconceptions. I don't know why we got to play all these weird games. We understand that the Hassan types hate the country and they hate America, and they want the people to rule over, even though he's a millionaire who flexes his money all the time. So he's a fucking hypocrite. My issue here, though, is like, there are multiple times in American history where just reasonable things that we have right now, like paid leave, for example, were considered socialist policies back in like the early 1900s, right? So, like, Counterpoints and Destiny have a very specific image of what a socialist is. And that image of what a socialist is the general depiction of what it is based off like Soviet Union and Cuban propaganda, not propaganda, and just messaging, right? There can be a deeper conversation, but I also understand why sticking to generalized understanding is also valuable, because when you're appealing to these people in politics, when you're appealing to a moderate, they're going to assume when you say the word socialist, they're going to think of the Chinas and the Soviet Unions, right? I think, honestly, Econoboi, honestly, Pisco, honestly, Destiny, I think the better term is very simple: social democrat. Now, it doesn't help that Mamdani calls himself a socialist, but social democrat is just a way easier term to
Exactly.
take.
Oh my God, this is so bad faith. So Econoboi brings up a point. He says, "Is this policy socialist?" And as it's sort of embodied in the Communist Manifesto. And you go a broader point, say, "Well, the Communist Manifesto has this other purpose." That's on the question on the table.
That's
What
not,
other
that's not
purposes?
the point. So
No,
that's not
okay.
the point. So the point is that it's not about whether or not we would semantically define something like a progressive income tax as communist or not communist. It's about these broader movements and what their general ideological disposition is on all of the different set of possible positions within the policy debate. So I would agree to your point that, like, yeah, like in terms of socialism being the decommodification of labor and also like the collective ownership of the means of production, if that's the way that you define socialism, then obviously these aren't like socialist policies, quote unquote, but that doesn't mean that you're not appealing to like the broader socialist movement and the broader like socialist apparatus of advocacy when you propose things like a $15 an hour
just for
minimum
clarity,
wage or
Econoboi, just for clarity, so I understand, you're saying when you say I want to appeal to socialists, you're saying things like, oh, pick policies that socialists would also like.
I'm
Is that
saying
what
that
you're
I'm saying that insofar as socialists and very progressive Democrats are a part of the actually existing base of Democratic voters, they should have some proportional say in things like party leadership positions, committee assignments, the platform of the Democratic Party, fundraising distribution, activist-based organizing, strategic discussions. They should have some kind of proportional say in all of those discussions.
But the problem is those people, if they truly identify as socialists and not just like liberal light or socialist light or whatever we're calling these people, they're not going to be pushing for these outer perimeter things that socialists might agree with when it comes to liberals. So when you say like a $15 an hour minimum wage or like a progressive taxation system, that these are quote unquote socialist policies because they're mentioned in the Communist Manifesto, you don't need communism or socialism to talk about either of those issues. And what I don't like is this weird game that's played where somehow socialists are allowed to no true Scotsman every single good thing that our capitalist liberal society has produced and say, oh, well, you like vacation days? That actually came from socialism. You like a minimum wage? That came from socialism. You like labor unions? That came from socialism. And every bad and shitty thing is ascribed to the capitalist part, despite the fact that that's what's even creating the necessary prerequisite wealth to even have these other things.
Wait, Destiny, what does that have to do with? Wait, I don't know what that has to do like at all with what I just said. What I'm saying fundamentally is that I think it's sensible to make policy concessions to the broader socialist apparatus insofar as they're a part of the base. It sounds like you don't even.
We don't have to make
necessarily
that's not a policy concession to a socialist. It's
is
literally
a
hold on. Wait, no, absolutely not.
Yes, it absolutely would.
If you got rid of all the socialists, could you still get a $15 an hour minimum wage?
Yeah.
Then it's not a policy concession to socialism.
Wait. No.
Under really quick, Pisco. Destiny, even under quote unquote liberal economic frameworks, people in my replies are calling countries like the Nordic societies liberal capitalist societies, even though they do quote unquote socialist things as you would just define, like social ownership of the means of.
Yeah, we're definitely in the weeds when it comes to like semantics and all this stuff. I understand both points. I don't. I feel like this is debate brain because I don't really get the point of this conversation. Like, what are we trying to prove here? Because I understand what Econoboi is saying. Because do you need a socialist to advocate for certain social policies? I'll just use that term to make sure that people understand. No, right? Like $15 an hour minimum wage. However, is there anything wrong with appealing to a socialist, especially one that is popular, like an AOC, who is advocating for the $15 minimum wage? At that point, do you need them? No, but they are the ones in the forefront of this getting passed and pushed. So would you call that appealing to socialism? Would you be calling that an appealing to a socialist candidate? It's just like a lot of wordplay, and I just don't really care. I'm like, the point is getting the policy passed, not who is passing it or what ideology created it or is sponsoring it. Like, I don't know, man.
production. Like there's a lot of quote unquote socialist policies that those countries have engaged in that people are labeling as liberalism and doing these kind of things. And it's like, whatever, if we want to have narrow definitions of things, that's totally fine with me. But I think that insofar as like the socialist movement, and when we went to the topic of the debate, courting the left, right? Conceding things to the left, the broader left, I include very progressive Democrats in that who might identify as capitalists or might be misaligned in some way. That includes things like broader progressive policies, like, I mentioned the death penalty, minimum wage, things like that as well.
When I say court the left, and when I was designing this topic, maybe I could have been more clear. I'm not talking about issues that both liberals and leftists share. Like both of them agree that we should treat kids nicely. Both of them agree that we should be kind to our neighbors, things like that. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about things that are specifically and uniquely.
So name them. So
Decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production.
Holy fucking shit. So if
Hassan is a good example, right?
Hassan isn't a policy. Hassan isn't a policy. If you're talking about appealing to people, Econoboi gave you a response. He's talking about things that these people care about, socialists care about.
Wick, an easy one to throw out there would have been immediately the destruction of the Israeli state. There you go. The destruction of the Israeli state. Easy, simple, easily understood.
Oh, you're talking about people.
Okay. No. Okay, so I'm going to say something that pisses me off about this conversation. Somebody else started talking. I'm going to roll my eyes. Shut the fuck up, Pisco. Take your eyeballs and fucking shut them the fuck up, okay? So saying everything good is socialism is dumb as fuck.
No one
okay?
said that.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, we did.
No one fucking said that.
Hey, shut the fuck up. I listened to you talk for the past 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Shut the
but
fuck
we didn't
up.
straw man the shit out of you, Connor. You're being an idiot.
You're fucking idiot, dude. You didn't say that. No one said
my turn. I have the talking stick. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So saying like, a minimum wage is socialist, progressive taxes is socialist, firefighters is socialist, police are socialist, teachers are socialist. This is the kind of fucking bullshit that is the obfuscation that I'm talking about, where you're basically talking about normie lib governmental policies that are perfectly conducive.
All he just said is what I said in the video. I mean, they are characterized as socialists, right? I mean, I understand what Connor is saying as well, though, because I do think it's disingenuous. Because I don't shit on capitalism, though. Like, I don't think capitalism is bad. I just think it can be improved. And I think a combination of certain socialist things and capitalist things can help improve it. I think they both can work together to improve it. And that's what I think our current system has, to be honest, with some of the things that we're trying to advocate for. But I also understand what he's trying to say, because a lot of these socialists, I'm not a socialist at all, not even close, would say the only good stuff we have is socialism. All the bad shit we have is capitalism. So I completely understand his point of view.
To a free market fucking state, and you're like, it's just a gradation of the economics. Well, why don't we just go with the right-wing definition of socialism, where socialism is when the government does anything ever whatsoever. Then at that point, I'm a socialist.
You're not listening.
Everybody's a fucking socialist.
Hold on. Give it to Pisco and Econoboi to respond. Go ahead.
So Econoboi specifically didn't say that. I'll let Econoboi do, but you're just not listening. But I want to talk.
So just to be clear, again, I'm grounding everything that I'm saying in the actually existing people that call themselves socialists and call themselves very, very progressive.
There's a good policy,
if I could just finish, Connor, all the bullshit about interrupting. So
no, I heard it.
Okay. Well, you interrupted. So just give me a second here. I'm grounding this in the actual existing people that call it socialism, that call it whatever, very progressive capitalism or very progressive like policies in general, right? So insofar as you're saying, my narrow definition of socialist policies is decommodification of labor and the socialization of the means of production, then to be fair, according to me and according to some other policies that have been proposed, that is like almost exactly what we would be doing.
Give us an example, just an example of a
I didn't come here to play the no true stop thing for fucking
wait, not the policy again. I'm just curious because
I'm doing the exact opposite.
Okay, wait. Econoboi keeps bringing up like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Can you name somebody in the media environment that identifies as a socialist that is friendly towards the Democratic Party?
Like in the mainstream media environment?
Anybody in the media
environment. Why is that relevant
to
the conversation? You want to change the conversation?
I don't want to change the conversation because politicians have to operate within the very real world of trying to get elected. So necessarily their positions are going to be probably a bit more constrained. And also, these are people that, maybe Connor has, but I don't shit on AOC or Bernie Sanders. That was never what this conversation was ever about, ever. I'm curious, in the media environment, are there any people that identify as socialists that are friendly towards the Democratic Party in the United States of America?
Why is that relevant to whether or not the Democrats
Because my main criticism is that you're saying Democrats should appeal to socialists, and you're picking the outer perimeter socialists that are the least socialist people who have won elections by being the least socialist people, saying that the outer perimeter beliefs that we're appealing to are things like a $15 minimum wage, which aren't even necessarily socialist policies. And the issue we have is that the central tenets of socialism, like the abolition of all free enterprise, the abolition of all private property, the destruction of the political parties in the United States of America, those are the people that are dominating the media environment. And you're asking us to appeal to those people to capture people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. I'm not worried about the AOCs and Bernie Sanders. I'm worried about the people that work for Bernie Sanders, like your Brianna Joy Grays, or the people that are running the entire left media online apparatus, which is why I'm asking for
Is Brianna Joy Gray socialist? I'm gonna be honest, I don't really follow what she says in deeply, so I don't know. Like, I have no idea. She might be. I don't know.
Single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party.
So
I
if
don't
you're
know.
if you're asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party, there's obviously a lot of those people. I just said those are 10% of the people that vote for Democrats. Now, if
Media
you're asking
people.
I want to make this point because
Okay,
it's relevant to the
holy
conversation
shit.
we're having.
Okay,
Fuck
what's your
you,
relevant
Pisco.
point?
If
Oh,
every
dude,
time you open your
guys-
fucking mouth,
guys-
I go,
you guys
oh
are-
shit.
you guys are- it's impossible for you guys to linearize.
Oh.
I'm gonna be honest, Wick. You gotta control this because the kind of boy gotta be allowed to talk. I'm not gonna lie. You gotta let him talk. You gotta let him talk. I also think Pisco is doing too much too at the same time. So balance, executive authority. Shout out Wick though. This is a great conversation.
Your whole job here is to muddy the waters. When Congress presented-
Oh, I think you're muddying the water. That's exactly what I'm going to accuse you of momentarily. So shut
So
up.
you
and
were
listen.
brought in.
Hold on,
You and Wick
hold
are
on,
being brought
let
in
Pisco
to
go.
give
Let Pisco
cover
go.
to
We'll
destiny.
get counter.
I'm
Pisco
gonna
first, then counter.
offer.
Hold on, counter.
I'm gonna
Stop.
offer
Stop. Counter.
clarity.
Stop. Counter. Stop. Pisco first, and then you can respond. Go
So
ahead.
clearly, with respect to
You didn't let
policies
Congress
that
finish.
socialists support, if what we mean by appeal to socialists is to literally propose policies that these types of socialists would support, you guys are okay with them, certain these policies, right? And we're just now defining what the scope of that agreement is, what the scope of that overlap is. But you don't have a problem in principle with appealing to socialists if by appealing to socialists we mean promoting policies that they like, correct?
Yeah, but that's a meaningless statement.
Policies are good.
Okay, so now it's actually
Wait, because the question would be, are you okay with appealing to members of the Ku Klux Klan?
They
Yeah,
like
so-
clean drinking
yeah,
water.
No,
Are you
yeah,
sympathetic?
yeah,
to non-Nazis?
yeah.
Let's say that you do like city renovations.
So
where you
now
have
let's
clean drinking water.
so now let's actually talk about the policies and whether they get to
No,
the
you have to answer
core.
that question.
Let's-
Would you
yeah,
be
I'm
okay
okay with
with
I'm okay with
Ku Klux
I'm okay with the party. I'm totally willing to bite bullets. You know I bite bullets. I'm totally willing with the party to appeal to members of the Ku Klux Klan if what is meant by that is appealing to common sense policies that
Okay,
everyone can.
which is what- yeah,
Excuse me.
that's a
Let me
pointless
finish.
question.
Wait. It's not a pointless question. It's not a pointless question. Because there are policies that you would consider socialist, I think, under your definition, no Truskotten's definition of socialist, that maybe the Democrats should appeal. So, for example, would you be against? Do you think, first of all, that a national healthcare service is a socialist policy?
No.
Okay, can you give an example of a socialist policy?
Things that involve taking away the means of production from private owners, from capital owners, and giving that so that the workers are exclusively the ones that are in control of the means of production.
So a single payer healthcare system.
So, I mean, I understand what they're doing, and I understand what. Oh man, they need to pivot the conversation on the intentionality of using the term socialism. I think that's where the conversation needs to pivot.
Say health insurance system. Let's put it aside national healthcare. A single payer healthcare system that makes it illegal or outlaws private insurance. You would not say that's socialist?
If you're talking about the government owning everything from the top down, then including the hospitals, then theoretically you could call that socialist. Some people
Would you?
might-
Would you? Sorry. Would you call that
Some people
socialist?
might-
Would
okay,
you?
I understand it. I know.
Not
We're having a-
Would you call that socialist? Yes or no?
I would call it a state-owned enterprise. Or state-owned enterprise is socialist. I mean, like technically not really, but sure, we can say. Sure, we can say that.
Wait, is your answer that a single payer system is not socialist?
Pisco is too much on edge. Why do you? Yo, these dudes hate each other. You know what? I mean, I understand. No, I'm not saying I don't have this level of hatred for. I don't know. Hey, they say it all the time. Love and hate is synonymous. These boys used to love each other not too long ago. Now they hate each other's guts apparently. So, yeah.
Is that what your answer is?
I wouldn't call it socialist, but if you wanted to for the purpose of this conversation, sure.
I want to know your opinion. So I'm asking your opinion. Your answer is no. Single payer is not socialist. Okay. And
I don't think it's necessarily like a social policy. You can call it if you wanted to. You could, but
no, I'm not asking if I wanted to. I could. I'm asking your opinion. I'm not saying if you wanted to, you could.
You want me to give you a yes or no answer to an incredibly question.
I want your opinion, dipshit.
Okay, 2 days ago.
Hey, dipshit. I want your opinion. I want your opinion.
You want a yes or no?
I want your opinion. I want your opinion.
You don't even know whether you're a state-owned enterprise.
Do you think?
Okay.
Do you think?
Okay.
Do you think single payer?
Hold on.
Steven,
Let
do
Pisco
you
ask
think?
his
Do you think
question,
single
then
payer?
Pisco's gonna shut up while
Steven,
Destiny answers
I'm not
his
asking would someone else? Could you? I'm asking you, Stephen Bonnell. Do you consider single payer to be socialist?
Okay, now that you've asked that, shut up and let him respond.
No. Okay, so this is who's the no true Scotsman here. You guys were saying like the policy that most people who would absolutely consider to be socialist is not socialist. And so our working framework of socialism is only pankyism, only people who want to decommodify everything and have government ownership of everything. And it's preposterous. You're just not operating with the way people use those words.
That's great. That's literally not the argument, though. But if you wanted to argue that if we were to call it socialist and you wanted to socialize the health.
Yeah, that's not I mean, what the fuck is this argument? I'm gonna be honest, this argument is stupid. Because we're not really focusing on the value of the conversation. We're focusing on, dare I say, semantics. Like, not even good semantics. But I think, oh man, semantics is important here But the semantics they're focusing on is in the incorrect semantics. Bruh.
Your system. The reason why you would be doing that wouldn't be because you're trying to appeal to socialists.
Weasel
You
words,
would
Stephen.
say that-
Weasel words.
It's called politics.
Yeah,
I know, but
yeah,
it's just-
if you want to, if you want
Can
to.
I finish my answer?
Yeah,
Holy
go
shit!
ahead.
There's a difference between doing something by. So, for instance, I'm a free market capitalist, but that doesn't mean I oppose government intrusion into every single sector or even a government monopoly on things like, say, utilities, because there are some things that the free market doesn't solve for. To say that I don't think the free market solves for this, so we should have utility companies ran by the state, is not the same as saying I'm appealing to fucking socialists.
I'm not
It's such
saying
a
it's the
naive
same.
reasoning.
I'm not saying.
So when you ask me if a single payer system would be socialist, I might say, I guess you can consider social if you want. The reason why I'm advocating, though, for a single payer system isn't because I'm trying to appeal to socialists. It's because I think free market capitalism cannot
We're not
solve our
talking about
problems.
so this is the
I don't need to
obfuscation.
Yes or no? Yes or no? What is a woman? What is a woman? If we're doing that with socialism, we can do that. Okay, go for it.
So
Yeah.
the obfuscation is the question isn't.
There's no obfuscation, to be clear. You're just confused. Your confusion is not the obfuscation.
The obfuscation is this whole. I'll identify it. The question isn't whether or not the intention behind promoting single payer system is one way or another. We're not talking about the intention behind why you propose one policy or another. We're just asking in pure semantic terms, would most people call socialized medicine, socialized healthcare, would they call it a socialist policy? And your absurd deflection on that and say, no, I would not call it socialist. I think just you're not using the term where people use those terms. Yeah.
Here's a question. Wait. Do you think that Hassan would call it socialism?
I don't. Wait, why is that relevant?
Why is
I think
the
he would call it
largest
socialist.
left-wing streamer relevant to what mainstream thought
What-
is amongst leftists on the?
The problem here with Pisco, I'm calling out Pisco. Pisco's the problem here. Destiny already admitted, and he qualified. Well, yeah, he already admitted that he's focused on the media socialists. He said he's fine with AOC, he's fine with Bernie, and he's fine with Mamdani. He said he would entertain some of the things that they do. So there's already a concession there. But his focus is not them. It's the people in the media landscape. Pisco's line of questioning is still focused on the people that he already conceded to. So it's making him look like an idiot. It's just I don't know what we're doing there.
Online media sphere? Did you just say?
The Communist Manifesto. That is not authoritative on socialism, but Hassan Piker is.
No,
Make
the
that make
Communist
sense.
Manifesto is not authoritative on
Hassan
socialism.
Piker is. Hassan Piker, who you said is a fucking limousine socialist.
Yes.
Yeah, he's definitive on that, but not the Communist Manifesto.
Hold on, I just want to be clear. You're telling me that something that was written almost 100 years ago is more authoritative on what modern day socialists
Hassan
believe
Piker?
than what
Maybe,
the largest
maybe.
than what the. Okay. All right, well, I encourage you to do more research when it comes to politics. I guess. I don't know what to say.
Let me step in here. So if we're appealing at that point, though, Destiny, if we're appealing to what people who call themselves socialists actually think, hey, the authoritative source of what socialism is the actually existing socialists today and what they believe in, right? Then in terms of whether or not we're like acquiescing or appealing to the socialist movement, then yeah, like the Bernie Sanders platform concessions of 2016 would count within that reasonable framework, that he was able to raise the minimum wage requirement of the Democratic Party National Committee. He was able to add in things like legalizing marijuana. And so we're hopping back and forth between, oh, well, some socialists say socialism is decommodification of labor.
The difference there is Bernie Sanders is appealing to liberals. Liberals are trying to appeal to socialists,
okay,
right?
no,
When Bernie Sanders recommends the legalization of marijuana, that's not socialists, right?
Okay,
That's Bernie Sanders trying to do something in a liberal capitalist framework.
Okay, so
He didn't say the government needs to grow weed. Sorry.
Okay, so number one, I take it that you take back the thing you said in the beginning of this debate of when do socialists ever appeal to liberals by just now saying that was an appeal to liberals.
100%,
to add
yeah.
No, because I said at the beginning, I don't really consider these people socialists. Cook, follow the conversation, okay?
Okay, so now Bernie Sanders isn't a socialist.
I don't consider these. Didn't I say at the beginning of this conversation? I don't really consider these people real socialists. No.
But Destiny, but what you did say was the actually existing contemporary socialists like Hassan are authoritative on what socialism is. And so if people like Bernie Sanders, and if I could just finish my point, fuck's sake, if people like Bernie Sanders and people like Mamdani and people like AOC say things like publicly owned grocery stores and
Bro, the problem is Destiny's using a term that's already been co-opted and has a generalized perception that the moderates dislike, and their dislike generalized perception relates to people like Hassan who hate America and think America sucks, and they want to put everything into the hands of the workers, right? So he is the purebred, generalized, perceived socialist, and that's why Destiny's using the term. It's no different from like, let me think of a good example. Woke, right? Woke was the term that was co-opted as well. But now that every time someone hears the term woke or wokey or whatever, they think of a blue-haired leftist, right? So, like, we understand that all these terms are fallible, that they don't really have any inherent meaning, but they have a preconceived notion. So I don't know why we're really stuck on that, because the point is to discern the differences between the perceived socialist, which is the media socialist that Destiny is referring to, compared to the generalized Democrats, which includes the compass of self-identified socialists in the political landscape.
Single-payer
And he
healthcare
already
system,
admitted
the
this,
expansion
too.
of a public education are socialist policies, then we have to agree with them, or at least we have to say that they're a major influence on what it means to be a socialist policy under your own
Okay, no,
framework.
and I would like an opportunity to speak.
No, I
So-
want Destiny to really clarify that really quick. Just like, does that make
I
sense?
really
can't even
don't,
finish
because then I'm
saying it
going to
without
sit here with my
somebody
hand on my
screaming
dick
at me.
and balls for the next
Well,
10
without-
minutes. So I would like an
without-
opportunity.
hold
to
on,
speak.
Hold on,
You guys
hold
can
on,
go back to
stop.
yelling at each other.
Counterpoints, please. Destiny was asked a direct question. I'm gonna let him give you a direct answer.
Okay,
And I'll
Connor,
get to you after.
Connor should go right over me. Okay, listen, I don't think that you looked at the lawmakers in a democratic system to see who your ideological thought leaders are for certain movements in the United States necessarily. Okay, they're running in certain districts and they're running under the confines of trying to operate within some electoral system so that they can get stuff done. I think that if you want to have this argument right now of like, does Bernie Sanders and AOC dictate what socialism is in the United States? Honestly, when you say it, maybe when Pisco said it, I'm not sure what plan he's on right now, okay? But when you say it, Counterpoint, I think you genuinely believe that, and I don't think you're saying that like with stupidity, and I don't think you're saying that with malice, and I don't think you're a secret pinky or anything like that, okay? I understand what you're saying there, and I want to agree with you.
Check
But
your
the problem
comments.
is that, but the problem is that when I go outside, let me explain what the
Talking
comment
next,
The
okay?
problem is that when we go outside of where Econoboi is, there is nobody in the United States media environment, okay, that like calls themselves like really like a socialist that would look to people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and say, oh yeah, those are socialists. They would call those people stepping stones in the radicalization funnel and good like liberal capitalists at the end of the day, which is why these are some people
This is what
I
you
wanna
want.
turn.
Fuck
Hold on,
Hassan.
hold
Fuck
on.
Hassan.
Hold on.
I want to turn.
Go ahead.
I want to turn because frankly, you guys are talking past each other, okay? The reason why I've reiterated my definition of socialism as narrow and tailored is because I'm not doing no true Scotsman, okay? I'm telling you what a fucking Scotsman is. It's a Scottish person from fucking Scotland, okay? It's a dude, he wears a kilt, he has his fucking dick out all the time, all right? So the point is, I'm describing very specifically what it is. And the reason why I would be pissed about universal health care or high quality education being labeled socialist is number one, I think most committed socialists who have read any books about socialism wouldn't agree with that definition. And the only way that I would stretch it is if you considered universal health care or universal access to health care as a part of the decommodification of basic human needs, which by the way, I'm pretty sure was just food, water, and shelter. But what I'm saying is that the reason why I think that Econoboi and Pisco, whether they like it or not, are useful fucking idiots for committed socialists and tankies and communists is because they fucking muddy the definitions. They fucking blur it around. They're just like, oh yeah, every public service is fucking socialist.
Connor, give us one example, therefore. Give us one example of a socialist policy. Go.
Making food, water, and shelter available to human beings at the point of service for free.
So you think, so why is that socialist, but doing the same thing with health insurance isn't? And it's because one is basic human needs?
Because I'm going based on, well, yeah, because I'm going off of the fucking definitions of shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so healthcare is not a basic human need, but food is.
All you're arguing is that healthcare is.
I'm asking a question. I'm actually asking you a question. Is food more of a human need than healthcare is, as you're seeing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I think that's cooked. I think that's fucking cooked and arbitrary. I don't think you can.
Hold on, wait. I gotta ask because
Everyone needs food. Not everybody needs healthcare. What the fuck
You think that healthcare is as important as food?
No, I think food is more important than healthcare.
Okay, so you agreed with Connor. I don't know why you just said
No.
Connor.
You're cooked in that I would consider. I think most people consider in basic human necessity need healthcare as well as food. Not that food is more important.
You asked him which was more important, didn't you? Did I miss that? Hold on, wait. Did he ask which one was more important, or did he say both
which is
important?
more important in healthcare?
Thank you. Okay, he did. So you just totally mischaracterized my point there.
No. I said, is it more in the sense of is it more of a basic human necessity in the sense that it's a separate category of thing, that there are separate categories that food is a basic human necessity in a way.
You did say more important. Just retract it and say this is what I meant. Like, oh my god, debate Marine. Oh my god, I wouldn't debate. Shut the fuck up. And like this type of stuff. That's why on my open panels, I'm not allowing this debate brain shit.
You don't need to cope. You can just say you missed.
Hold on, wait. Just to be clear, because you're trying to bail yourself out. It doesn't make sense what you just said. Is something more of this in a category, or is it just in the category?
No, it makes sense.
Well, I don't give a fuck. He misspoke. I don't care.
More focus. More.
When you say the word a basic human necessity, all right, a basic human necessity. In what respect is food a basic human necessity? With respect that healthcare is not. And I'm trying to see what are the metrics by which you assess healthcare to be more of a basic human necessity.
I would like to answer this question.
Wait, stop. I'm clarifying. No, wait, I'm clarifying. So just because I say something is more important, and I'm going to get Destiny with this, just because something is more important, I consider something to be more important, doesn't mean it's more of a basic human necessity. Yes or no?
Who?
Stephen,
Don't give a fuck. Don't give a fuck. Don't give a fuck.
Word.
Don't give a fuck.
Come
Don't
to
give a fuck. Don't give a fuck.
I don't think it's
It's a category
interesting.
question,
I don't
but
think
yeah.
it's interesting to debate whether or not Pisco got dunked on just now. Okay, I want to go back to what Destiny said previously, which I thought was pretty interesting. So Destiny made the claim that the people that he would look to determine who are the ideological thought leaders of socialists, like people who label themselves as socialists, wouldn't be people he said necessarily like Bernie Sanders or Mamdani or AOC. Now, I would say this is pretty absurd for a number of reasons. Okay, if we look at hey, when people go and have public events, right? Like, hey, Hassan goes and has a public event. How many people show up? I'd say maybe a few hundred. Maybe he gets into the 1,000 plus club or something. When AOC and Bernie Sanders go out and have an event, thousands of people show up. They can fill stadiums, fill arenas. When people actually go out and express their political views, what are my political views? Millions of people voted for Bernie Sanders. Hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people across the country, vote for Democratic Socialist politicians. And so when we look at Democratic Socialists and Socialist politicians, they are clearly, by ideological standpoint and by their propensity to collaborate within Democratic Party frameworks and like.
Even though I understand what Econoboi is saying, trust me, I 100% do. I also align with Counterpoints in the sense that what is the point of utilizing the same term that has such negative connotations? What is the point? Are you trying to reclaim the word? Because I hate that shit. I really do. Why don't you just use social democratic policies? Why do you need to be a socialist? I know Bernie, Mamdani, and AOC already consider themselves that. I would argue they should also change their qualification or identification. So, what is the value of calling yourself a socialist in this situation? Because it does, and this is where I agree with Connor, it does embolden and include the connotation as well as the, I wouldn't say support, but more so like inclusion of the potentiality of the crazy socialist that Connor's referring to be mixed up with what you're advocating for. He's correct about that. That is objectively true. So I just think changing the title, changing the identification has more value moving forward, right? That's why I just call myself purple. I'm not really interested in anything being like blue or red. I just call myself purple, an identification that I can mold as I see fit, and that has more intrinsic value in how I use it.
Pluralism, much different than Hassan and much more emblematic of the standard by which we should judge people who label themselves as socialists in this country.
I would like to address this directly.
Real quick, I got a quick. So hold on. I'm sorry. Why didn't the DSA then endorse AOC?
Because she came out with that vote on for the national DSA, retracted their vote because of the Iron Dome vote that AOC took.
Seems like kind of a problem.
But that's not a socialist. That's not a socialist.
The DSA is not socialist.
Destiny, you're obfuscating.
It's a bad example.
The point is not. It's
a horrible example.
Please go, Destiny. 1 second. The reason I say you're obfuscating is because my point was not that, for instance, within DSA, within all of these different Democratic Socialist politicians, even within those people, Mamdani is not the same as AOC, and no one DSA member is the same as any other one. Okay,
we're not talking about one DSA member. The national DSA did not endorse AOC. The woman who runs
they did endorse Mamdani. They did endorse Mamdani. Okay, they did endorse many other Democratic Socialist candidates. I understand that there is an exception. If I could just finish, I understand that there is. I understand that there is an exception to the general rule of Democratic Socialists, like the organization endorses, different people who call themselves Democratic Socialists. But that's not an argument against my fundamental point, which is that when we agglomerate all of the people who call themselves socialists and run for parties and have people come out and vote for them and support them, that is a fundamentally different group of people on average by the normal distribution of their beliefs than people like Hassan. And I think that we should judge them by who they vote for more so than by, Hassan, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
I disagree. Well, you agree then. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Counterpoints, go ahead.
All right.
I love you, Connor.
Okay. I think what happened with socialism was that if you actually go back to Bernie Sanders in the fucking 80s and 70s, he was doing apologia for Cuba. He was doing apologia for the Soviet Union. He did apologia for Venezuela in the fucking 90s and thousands. And you know what happened? Each one of those places ended up being absolute fucking shitholes. So what he had to do, is he had to move to social democratic models in the Scandinavian system and abandon his previous hardcore shit. But there's a question of whether or not social democrats are actually just hiding their power level because they're trying to inculcate a left-wing philosophy. I'm not done yet.
Let Connor finish.
Shut up. Why is it relevant? This is the entire conversation. The entire conversation is whether or not social democracy
No,
is
it's
being
not.
used
Is
as
it your
Trojan horse
conspiracy
in
theory
order to
about
infiltrate
socialists?
the center left. That's the whole fucking
Okay,
conversation.
so you're just you're asserting a conspiracy without much evidence. You're just saying, oh,
Yeah.
Bernie actually conspiratorially supports things like Cuba and the Soviet Union, and he didn't have any genuine changes of opinion.
Ideas. He might have
Just real
moved
quick.
off of hardcore
Hold on, just
socialism.
real quick.
Sure. Okay, I hear what he's saying. Social Democrat. The thing that stood out to me is the Social Democrat stuff being a Trojan horse for socialists. I disagree with that one. You have to leave room for certain principles. Oh my tongue hurts.
Like the
But
idea.
Hassan hasn't.
Hold on, just real quick.
The second thought hasn't.
Hold on, stop. The idea that
No,
Counterpoints
the
is
hate here.
expressing is that there are leftists who have said explicitly that their goal is to infiltrate the Democratic Party to move it towards leftism. It is not a conspiracy in the sense of it's crazy. It is a conspiracy in the sense that these people have said, this is what we're going to do, this is our goal for doing it, and this is how we're going
Why
to
is
do
that
it.
relevant to our
no,
discussion?
It's
Why is
relevant
that
to the
relevant?
discussion because should we, the Democrats, allow or invite into our house as influencers, invite into our house as staffers, invite into our house as people we will engage with or collaborate with in a friendly way? Should we be doing that when we know that this is their goal?
I'll answer the question directly. So it's only it's only quote unquote a problem insofar as it's aggregately true of the 10% of the Democratic Party base that's actually engaged in that process. Now I understand that that's, you know, that we don't have a poll that says how many of you are engaged in this kind of like Manchurian candidate fucking like conspiracy, whatever the fuck like Connor's describing. But I would say that generally speaking, when I look at the actions of Democratic Socialists who win elections, when I look at the actions of Democratic Socialists and the platforms of them, they don't seem to be secret tankies. Now, I would agree that there are certain people, like people reference Hassan, like Hassan has said, oh, like I want liberals. Well, okay, yeah. Oh, people reference other left-wing alternative media influencers. Oh, sure, okay, like whatever. People reference people like that, and sure, yeah, to the extent that those people have like literally on record said that they're just trying to obfuscate issues and engage in this kind of, like conspiracy or whatever. Then I've already said at the very beginning of this debate that people like that probably shouldn't be invited into the inner party and be given platforms in Democratic Party
And
circles.
as I
That's
understand,
obviously true. That's
and
trivially
as I
true.
understand, the disagreement here is that, and again, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but Destiny and Counterpoints think that you are allowing this to happen. Like you say,
No, wait, hang on a second.
but they're saying
No,
that
the
you are.
disagreement is also semantic bullshit. Connor, is China a communist country or a socialist country?
Is what?
Is China a socialist country?
Are they moneyless, stateless, or classless?
No, they have class.
No, then they're not.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any socialist country in the world right now?
I don't think anybody has like.
So who's
actually
no true
achieved-
Scotsmaning? So tell me, who's no
No,
true
no, no, no.
Scotsman?
I'll answer your question. No, no, no. Don't pretend you have a good point. You don't. Okay. Socialists. This
Pisco is on some bullshit right now. Wick perfectly articulated the point that is being made, and then he just ran to whatever the bullshit he just said. What the fuck, Pisco? And hey, man, I don't get what we're doing here. Because Pisco went right back into the semantics. I think there's a point of agreement here in terms of. I think they disagree on what generalized Destiny and Connor's focus on generalized perception of what socialism is and with the direct definitions. Pisco and Econoboi are willing to broaden it to include people like AOC, Bernie, and blah blah blah, as well as Econoboi himself. So they're willing to include more individuals that follow a umbrella. Cool. If we all agree that there is a section under the umbrella, or there's just a specific individuals that include socialism, even though you guys will not agree with how you look at the term, just the focus on the people you dislike. And I agree with Destiny and Connor and Wick's perception that I do think you guys softball the people you dislike, the people we're talking about.
is actually fundamental to my perspective. Socialists are fucking retarded. And they can't implement their worldview. Hold on. And they can't implement their worldview into the real world. So if you look at the 20th century, there's something called vanguard Marxism or Marxist-Leninism. And they have these things called vanguard parties that take over countries and turn them into shitholes. And so we have people like Hakeem, Second Thought, Hassan Piker, who try to sweep this history away. No, I'm telling you the truth. And these are the people
You're just monologuing, old man.
Econoboi and you are useful idiots for.
No. So under your vision, right? Single payer is not socialist. There's no socialist country. Socialism has never been done.
Because I'm using the definitions that socialists themselves use.
But by the way, like, and I'm sure Stephen,
you think you have a gun, but you have nothing. You're actually speaking from a perspective of ignorance. Go ahead and finish your point. I'll let you finish your point, but I'm going to tell you why you're speaking from a position of ignorance momentarily.
So I just want to go, Stephen, you acknowledge that what Connor just said is fucking so stupid.
No, Pisco, you fucking idiot. You're speaking from a position of ignorance. You need to shut the fuck up before you jump on another fucking dumbass.
So I'm asking about Stephen.
You're speaking from a position of ignorance.
Stephen, do you agree?
Then let him demonstrate that. Stop counterpoints. Let him demonstrate it. If you think he's
the worst behaved person here, Wick.
None of you are well behaved. You're all testing my patience.
Goddamn minutes.
Stop.
Keep moderating, Connor.
Stop.
Pisco.
Let
He's arguing from a position of ignorance.
Okay, then let him demonstrate that. Shut up.
Connor is misbehaving.
Pisco, go.
So I have a question for Stephen. Stephen, do you agree with Connor's contention that there's no socialist country currently and that single payer is not a socialist policy?
Both of those questions are very complicated. It's hard to yes or no them. The issue right now that we're having with this conversation is every single conversation that I ever had with a centrist that defended a Nazi, and now it's going to be, I guess, for the next however many years, every conversation with a center-left socialist or a Demsoc who inevitably will play cover for tankies. The issue is that you guys have come here to defend the proposition that socialists are AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Mamdani. Okay, AOC is not even currently endorsed by the largest socialist movement in the United States. Bernie Sanders causes major contention over his endorsement. All of these people run as Democrats, and you're going to pretend like this is the main voice of the socialist movement in the United States, and you're going to say it, and you're going to say it by talking about policies that they're using to appeal to
didn't hear an answer to my question.
You're going to say that these represent socialists. Stop. Let Destiny finish. Go ahead, Destiny.
You're going to say that these appeal to socialists in the United States because they're doing things that are popular amongst literally all center-left people, and then you're going to say that's an example for why we should try harder to appeal to leftists. When my question earlier is, let's look at the media apparatus. The entire left-wing media apparatus constantly attacks and shits on Democrats, and then you guys, like watching Pisco stumble through, not knowing 50 different terms related to what Hassan talks about on his stream, and play cover for him over and over and over again, whether it's the ridiculous TSA story or whether it's his ridiculous political beliefs that where Pisco pretends not to know what any of these things are, not to know what, well, re-education camp, isn't that like getting your GED, LOL, right? That's the issue that people have when they look at it and go, okay, every time you come to argue with us about defending socialists, you talk about AOC and Bernie Sanders. But then when you look at the media environment, they're talking about fucking Stalin. That's the issue.
Okay, so I didn't hear an answer to the question, so I'll just ask it again.
Ask it again, and then I want to tell you
I
what
want
to hear an answer from Steven, so he just fucking filibustered when he's trying to
so you can dodge. Cool.
Do you agree with Connor's contention that
he's focusing on the main point? He doesn't have debate. You're Pisco, you're too debate brain right now. You're too debate brain. Destiny and Wick both articulated the point of the conversation, and Pisco's not engaging. He hates Destiny, bro.
There's no socialist country, and that single payer is not a socialist policy.
The whole point of this conversation is you're hiding behind the obscurity of what these words mean. It depends. There are some socialists who would say that there are no socialist countries. There are other socialists that would point to
most socialists would say there isn't any.
Much the same that if I was on a podcast and a conservative influencer said, "What is a woman?" Define it in 3 words. I would say I can't really do that. It's more complicated than that. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Pisco, can I tell you why you're confidently ignorant and kind of stupid in this conversation right now? I would like a minute, please.
Yeah.
So the reason why you're confidently stupid is because vanguard parties want to institute socialism as a stepping stone to communism. But in the early 20th century, Mao Zedong took over China, and then he totally fucked it up. He tried to do a command economy where he guaranteed food, water, and shelter, and he tried to do a massive industrialization in the middle of the 20th century. He was so stupid and so wrong that he caused the death of millions, if not tens of millions of people. And so what happened was through the 60s and 70s, they said, hey, Mao, this is kind of a bad idea. Maybe we should maybe we should do some state capitalism first. That way we can do this. And you know what he did? He culturally purged and killed the people that did that until he eventually died. And then Deng Xiaoping intentionally instituted state capitalism, which is where you have a free market, hybridized command economy. And by the way, this is mentioned by socialists as a stepping stone to socialism. So you saying what I said is fucking stupid, you don't know dick about history, and you're overly confident for a topic you don't know shit about. So jump on another rake, you fucking dumbass.
Let me explain how Connor is completely wrong about what he just said. Okay?
Oh, suck a dick, Econoboi.
Let Econoboi go ahead. Go ahead, Econoboi.
I don't know what I
Let me explain how we're not sweeping for the 20th century socialists. Please do.
So
Connor's very passionate about this. I'm curious to see what Econoboi is going to say in rebuttal to this. I'm very curious.
Yeah, let me explain, dumb fuck, okay? Because you're completely wrong about your characterization of socialism, okay? And the history of socialism during that same exact time period. Okay, so Connor, would you say that there were other socialists on the planet engaged in socialist advocacy at the same time as Mao?
Absolutely.
Okay, so your characterization that Maoism and that the people who followed Mao and the socialist models after that were in reaction to Mao is necessarily wrong because there were concurrent socialist movements to Mao. You understand that, right?
Actually, hold on. I can name half a dozen. Can you name half a dozen?
Dumb fuck, can you answer that question?
What's your question?
The question is, since there were concurrent socialist movements to Mao, it is necessarily not true that socialist movements that came after were just in response to the Maoist model of socialism.
Okay, I'm going to be a dick because I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to be a dick about it. Yeah, there were concurrent movements, and a majority of them were Marxist-Leninist. They were Pol Pot. They were fucking Soviet Union. So if they're all fucking Marxist-Leninists, and Maoism is an iteration of Marxist-Leninism, and if they share similar issues like authoritarianism, centrally planned economies, and dystopian fucking Orwellian nightmare states, then why the fuck do I give a shit about your differentiation?
You're wrong about your empirical claim. The Social Democratic Party of Australia, the Labour Party of the UK, the Social Democratic Party of Germany, every single one of the every single quick 1 second.
The nice ones who slept for the murderous
who didn't do the murder are also socialists. Connor,
is Clement Attlee a socialist?
Hold on, just because I don't know. Hold on, stop. I have a question. Stop.
Jihadists aren't the same thing.
Stop.
What you're saying,
It's a question for you. If you shut up, I can ask the question. Econoboi, those the ones you just
Clement
mentioned
Attlee,
in
Australia,
Germany, Australia, did they have control of the government?
Nope.
Yes. Clement Attlee had control. Clement Attlee had a massive.
Oh
my God.
Utopia.
Yes, but I
honestly don't know.
Socialist. So this is Connor's position. You're only socialist if you're able to institute this communist utopia.
There's an interesting conversation here. Now we're finally getting to it. Okay. I'm trying to see. So I understand the point that Econoboi is making. He's making a very fundamental point that there were socialist identities and philosophies that existed that did not align with the more terrible nature of what socialism has orchestrated under Maoism and under the Soviet Union. Those things did exist, and I don't know necessarily if they did good things, but or net positive things. Connor's arguing that I'm curious. I actually need to hear his counter argument to that. That's what I need to hear.
Hold on, I want to hear the answer.
Hey, everybody else has been screaming. I'm going to scream too. You're retarded if you're
the moderator, Connor.
The government and the society might save you from yourself. So you might be an inefficacious socialist.
Okay, so
wait, can I ask a simple question that maybe this is like I feel like this is what this whole thing is coming down to, okay? If you were to take 100 people, have them read theory, study history, and then look in a room, okay, and you were to put, we'll say, Hassan Piker and then AOC in a room, and you were to ask them, which one is more of a socialist? What do you think all of those people would say?
I don't know, because they would
I can't even believe, then this conversation is hopeless.
Because
it's such an unbelievable answer to me.
Because you're...
Wouldn't you argue, though, that, like, the most impactful qualification of what a ideology is determines what the thing is more so in society, right? The impact of Marxist-Leninism, it's whatever, the Soviet Union and China, because of everything that happened there, the amount of lives impacted, the value of what that is determines what the term is generally perceived. Kind of like Nazism, right? The term Nazis have been completely co-opted and we understand what it is. It's kind of similar to the term Zionism, where now people think every Zionist are people who want to kill all Palestinians. So, although I get that the innate definition, the term, and the overarching broad spectrum of what it can mean is interesting, I think it has no value in the overarching understanding of what society is, which is why Destiny asked his question on if generalized perception based off 100 people understanding on what history has said about socialism, who would be the socialist? And the answer would be Hassan Piker, because of impact value of what the statement is considered on throughout history. So I think they have to really connect to Econoboi that the term is too overly negatively co-opted for the term to have intrinsically no value, even though inherently you are correct.
No, because to say that is to misunderstand the diversity of the socialist movement and contemporaries
I'm not
of
talking
Marx.
about the diversity of the socialist movement. I'm saying that AOC. Hold on. Is it fair for me to say that AOC is a way more outer perimeter socialist than like
I don't mean by that.
a bog standard. Then
What do you mean by that?
Look up
She
what
likes
outer
to
perimeter
bring
is.
that
Well,
shit.
Okay.
do you think there are fundamental differences, and what are the fundamental differences between AOC and something like Hassan?
Let's use Stephen's model. Stephen, if you put 100 people in a room and ask them, is Bernie Sanders a socialist? How would they answer? Yes or no?
I honestly don't know.
That's your standard that you just gave.
said 100 people. No,
you just did that.
You didn't even ask me the same question. I was comparing two different people. I said 100 people well-read on theory. Do you want to say 100 well-read people? If you put 100 people who are well-read on socialist theory and you ask them if Bernie Sanders is a socialist,
They would say
zero of
yes.
them would say yes. No,
They would say
absolutely.
yes.
You're
Okay.
so fucking retarded. No, he's a liberal and he supports capitalism. Definitionally, in every single way, he is not a bog standard socialist. Right? You want to say he's like an outer perimeter? Dem suck, maybe, sure, but like a socialist.
Dem what?
No.
Dem what? What does SOC stand for? Dem what?
Outer perimeter. What does outer
National
perimeter mean?
Socialist
Outer
Party?
perimeter.
National Socialist.
No, to answer, because the reason that we got off on this topic was because Connor we haven't really taken the bait of Connor's constant conspiracy baiting about like people are basically all just syncretankies that are socialists, right? But I think that it's important to address.
No, I think you guys are useful idiots. I think there's other
So Connor,
syncretankies who
you
say that
actually
you're useful
completely
idiots.
conceded that you had a complete incomplete understanding of socialist history. You asked a question that I wasn't able to answer.
Absolutely not.
No,
You said, hold on. You
absolutely
asked me a
did.
question, so I'm going to answer it.
I didn't ask you a question.
I brought
what are
up.
you talking about?
Yeah, you said, are you going to concede that you have a complete?
No, I said you conceded. It wasn't
version
a
of history?
question.
No, I don't
Oh.
concede at all. You brought
No,
up
that
Western
wasn't a question, just
socialists
to be
who
clear.
were you mentioned Western socialists who
I didn't
were
ask you a
under the
question.
control of Western governments.
So just to be
Fuck
clear,
you.
when the Western government is controlled by socialists, it's a socialist government. That's how elections work.
Hold
okay?
on.
No,
You take
it's
power. You take
No, it's
power,
not.
and you
Trump
take
is a
power.
fascist. Is
You-
the
hold on,
current American government
Stop. Econoboi. If today we replace
save him from
Trump,
getting raped.
hold on. If we replace Trump with pick a socialist that you think is a good socialist, would the American, just because now our president identifies as a socialist, does that make America a socialist country now?
So I'm not saying that these countries.
I'm asking you a
became
question. Yes or no?
I'm literally
that.
answering
That's not
directly your question, Wick. You gave me like one word before you interrupted me. Okay.
So, I guess in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jesse, I haven't been the one interrupting you for the most part.
No, I know.
to
But you're getting
your
covered
point,
the guy
Wick,
who is, which is kind of what this whole convo is about.
That's true, that's true. And Pisco's
Okay, I want to hear the answer to your question. The question.
I'm not saying that these countries became socialist because they had socialist governments. I'm saying they had socialist governments for many points of time in their history. Okay. Now, Connor,
change my question because you hold on. I got to change my question now. Again, if we simply take Trump out and put a socialist in, is America run by a socialist government now?
Oh,
We would have
Obviously not.
Oh, yeah,
You
wait.
got raped.
It's run by socialist government can be a reference to the party in power. So, for example, like Clement Attlee was he's a socialist government in the sense that they're in
Now-
charge
Oh, so
of-
is
The only reason-
Zoltan Ramaswamy
Zoran.
is New York City fucking
Racist name.
socialist
Nice
because
racist
he's the
name.
mayor now?
nice race.
Okay,
No, but
so-
when you ask the question, is the
Why is
government
that
of the day socialist? If he said
Yeah.
Zoltan
So is New York
Who's
City
playing
socialist
semantics
because
now?
Zoltan
Holy shit.
Ramaswamy-
Wait. Can we just? Why don't we just rant?
Oh, you're about to get owned again, so you're running
Wait.
away.
So I'm trying to clarify terminology, and you don't want to do that. So, like, when people refer to the government, meaning the people in charge of the government, it's a socialist government. Doesn't necessarily mean that the structure itself is socialist.
Okay, but we all
I'm just
understand.
telling you why
Okay,
there's
so
different meanings of the word government.
The reason why I bring up all of the dozens and dozens and dozens of different labor governments and social democratic and fundamentally socialist governments that have existed in all of these different countries and Europe and Oceania and a lot of Latin American countries as well is because at the same time that Connor says socialism is like essentially fundamentally in some conspiratorial sense an authoritarian ideology with authoritarian ideals that will do authoritarianism and kill millions of people. Concurrently to the very same things that Connor was describing, you had socialist governments take power through democratic elections, convincing people to
And they
vote
get
for them,
moderated by the Constitution.
running on socialist platforms, being
Okay, I see the disconnect here. Now that Connor was able to give his counter argument, I understand what he's saying, and I mean it's very simple. The idea is that these other governments that ran under socialist policies, were still under a core Western governmental style, more than likely a free market capitalistic style or like a alteration of that, but it wasn't a foundational principle of a socialist style like a Soviet Union or China. So Connor's focused on the whole entire governmental structure. Econoboi's focused on whether or not those policies can win elections. So these are two different arguments.
in charge of the militaries.
Being moderated
and-
by the monarchy.
hey, Connor,
and being
when you're in
moderated by
charge-
representatives.
Can I finish the point? Can I? We've
Yeah,
been
sure,
trying
just
for 20 fucking
Yeah, sure,
minutes.
go ahead, finish the point.
I mean, if there was other governmental styles that I was not aware of, like I don't know, he said monarchy. It's not something I deep dove historically on by any means. But the point is, Western governmental style that was able to ensure that socialism does not embed itself into the foundations of what the government is. I mean, that is something I already advocate for. So,
Okay, so when the socialist government is now in charge of the police apparatus and the military and all of that stuff, when they lose the next election, what did they do across all of these different countries? They left power and there was a turnover in government. So your idea that basically every socialist movement is stamped with the authoritarianism of Mao is completely ahistorical, Connor.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm curious. Wait, for a counterpoint. Would you consider Trump an authoritarian, even though he gave up power and will probably give up power at the end of this admin? Maybe.
Yeah, he's authoritarian, and we have right now the U.S. government is like authoritarian in stature. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I just as a quick thing, it feels a little silly to say like we were talking about socialist countries, but now we switch to socialist governments, and then it's like you open up and look inside, and it's just
we weren't
liberalism,
talking about
capitalism,
socialist government. We weren't talking
Okay,
about
well, I think that
socialist
was probably the counter question. Wait, okay, hold on. Also, wait, you talked about like what socialism is, and you made it sound like the spooky thing of authoritarianism and all this. Would you concede that like a central tenet of socialism is the overthrow of the capital class, oftentimes via violent revolution? That is like a central tenet of socialism. No,
So
that's not oftentimes. Like ideologically, definitionally, like in capitalism, you have private ownership where individuals can own firms and hire employees and scrape whatever excess.
I'll answer your question directly. Okay, so I would compare the question that you just asked similar to the development and emergence of liberalism. Liberalism developed and emerged across the planet, across different stages of development, across different points in time, and it did so in sometimes very violent ways, and in sometimes through legislative reform. And so similar, you say, hey, and I was just going to say, you say, hey, an ideal of socialism is the abolition of private property. To which I would say, generally speaking, certainly that's a core tenet of almost every socialist thinker across the history of socialism. But that is not a statement on the method by which we get to that final end state. The method is up for debate, and it has been debated, and many different methods have been used by socialists.
Okay, sure. So just following this like very briefly, in what world is there ever a peaceful revolution where all of capital is abolished?
So, what are you talking about? There's. You can imagine. Could you conceive of a world? Let me just ask you this. Could you conceive of a world where the means of production are entirely collectively owned? Could you conceive of that?
I could conceive of that. Yes.
Okay. So, and people have said worker cooperatives, national industry, things like that. So we know that things like worker cooperatives and things like national industries and things like state services do exist. And we know that they've come into existence. They've come into being with democratic frameworks and liberal democratic sort of processes.
Sure. So far, none of this is responsive to what I asked. So I'm saying, how would we abolish all private property without violence?
So what I would say is that we would in this theory, we could abolish private property through the same exact means by which we've socialized property in the currently existing world, through the ballot box, through democratic initiative.
Do you agree it's logically possible? Stephen, do you agree it's logically possible?
This isn't a debate. Is it logically possible? That's not relevant.
Then why don't you just grant it? Then why don't you just grant it? Then why don't you just grant it? Then why don't you just grant it?
TikTok clips.
Wait, then why don't you just grant it?
The issue with saying that we've socialized some things is we're not doing that because we want socialism. We're doing that because we recognize it as a failure of capitalism to succeed in some particular area. But if you want to move to a fully socialist state of affairs, it seems like that would necessitate, according to what almost all socialists will tell you in good faith, will require some form of violence, right? Because what do they say constantly? Caught a liberal and a fascist bleeds. When the revolution comes, liberals will side with fascists. These are statements that almost every single socialist I've seen, almost all socialists will say this, right? So in that case, doesn't having the socialist concept in mind necessitate some future revolution?
Maybe, why don't you make the case that it entails violence?
I literally just did. Capital owners never give up willingly their property, meaning they will always fight violently to defend it. This is why socialists say capital owners never give up willingly their property, meaning they will always fight violently to defend it. This is why socialists say things like
Pisco is kind of unhinged today. I don't know what's up with him. He's unhinged today.
Institution of policing exists only to defend capital interests. I can walk you through Babby's first.
Wait,
really want me to, but I think a counterpoint should never.
So if what you mean is violence is entailed by the use of the police force, if that's what you mean by violence, and enforcing these restrictions would require like enforcement, then I guess it would entail violence. But that's not the violence that you're talking about. You're equivocating violence. What you mean by violence?
You don't understand when I say the police is a violent institution.
Would you agree? Wait. Would you agree? Would you agree, Stephen?
Stop. I don't want to be, but again,
you're such a bitch.
Destiny did ask a question. I do want that question answered, Pisco. He asked you, do you understand what he means when he says, well, repeat your question real quick, Destiny.
The socialist view of police is a violent institution. What do they mean when they say that?
Go ahead.
I think the socialists, I think the socialists and libertarians oftentimes believe that it entails violence because they're enacting violence. But
I'm so sorry.
Wait, Stephen. So I'm just gonna ask you a question. Does capitalism require violence in the same way?
No, I don't. I'm not.
Does it require violence? Does it require violence? Wait, does it require violence? Yes or no?
Yes.
No, not necessarily.
Yes.
No.
Oh,
no.
so-
What do you mean
wait.
require violence? No, it doesn't. No.
Wait. Doesn't
Enforcing private property requires
violence.
Law enforcement
Correct?
is necessarily violent.
No,
It
not
requires
necessarily.
violence.
I don't know. You're asking the most simple question in the world. Is me owning a Red Bull, does that require violence? Not necessarily.
Does
but
wide
you gotta be able to call the cops and press me.
wait,
I don't know.
Steve, just relax. Does the widespread establishment of a capitalist system in America require violence?
Violence. Define violence. What do you mean by violence?
Violence meaning the use of force, to defend property rights.
Am I muted? Yes, you have to defend private property.
So you
rights
agree with
through law
Connor?
enforcement.
You agree with Connor, don't you, Stephen?
Not really. It's like
So you don't agree with Connor.
Let me know when I can talk for 30 seconds.
So, do you know why he doesn't want to agree with you? He doesn't want to agree with you because he thinks that you're making them morally equivalent, and the violence that's necessary to enforce
hold on.
private property
Okay,
rights is not the same violence that's required.
Let's not.
in order to
Everyone
expropriate
is doing this
property
thing.
from everyone.
Okay, everyone's doing this thing where they're trying to tell like everyone else what they're saying. Like Connor's place, well, Destiny's saying this, and then Destiny will be saying,
Actually, I will say Connor was correct though. They're like those are different types of violence. So, for instance, when you talk about does capitalism necessitate violence, and then you want me to say yes to that, well, that's the same type of violence that any country, socialists included, would necessitate, which is the ability to enforce laws or whatever. But that's different. But that's different than a violence that is necessitated ideologically to prevent things like, say, free enterprise or private corporations, which is the type of violence that socialism would necessitate, but capitalism wouldn't necessitate. That's why I'm saying, what kind of violence do you need?
Why is it interesting? Why is it interesting?
No. So Pisco, 1 second. So Destiny. So
I also agree to that as well. There is a difference. I don't know why we try to equate it to law enforcement, but all right.
I disagree that there's a distinction in the type of violence that we're talking about here. So, for instance, what I mean by that is that insofar
You
as
would.
Based.
okay, so
It's a panel. If you don't want to throw elbows on a panel, don't join a panel.
I just wanted
You're a vandal that you were brought on to fucking muddy the water. That's why
let
you're
it
here.
sit for a little bit. I
No,
thought
I'm not. I've been very
Yeah.
clear, and I got
Hold on, no,
Pisco
stop.
from
Counterpoints
free
was
rank
brought on
today.
because the guy I asked initially declined.
I thought I
right?
had a good point.
So Counterpoints is here to kind of balance the
well,
scales a little
fuck
bit.
you too, Rick,
Okay,
for
so-
saying that I'm your second date.
That's
Jesus.
true.
It's okay. I still love you.
but- Anyway, so I don't think it's different, Destiny, okay? Because, for instance, if you were to say, hey, like, necessarily, if you were to achieve the socialist ideal, that requires violence. Insofar as what we're talking about is a reestablishment of what property rights means, right? So, for instance, we were to say, like, oh, we did Econoboi with socialism characteristics. We got 90% of the way here, and now the socialists are in power, and they're going to go the full 100. They're going to say, hey, everything that's currently privately owned has to be sold to
Hold
the
on, you're
rest
playing.
of the holding.
Wait, but you just got.
I feel like I didn't even get to the...
The guy he initially asked, Hutch, probably is.
No, because you hold on, because you just skipped all the hard part. If you're
socialist ideal, that requires violence. Insofar as what we're talking about is a reestablishment of what property rights means, right? So, for instance, we were to say, like, oh, we did Econoboi with socialism characteristics. We got 90% of the way here, and now the socialists are in power, and they're going to go the full 100. They're going to say, hey, everything that's currently privately owned has to be sold to
hold on, you're
rest
playing.
of the holding.
Wait, but you just got.
I feel like I didn't even get to the...
No, because you hold on, because you just skipped all the hard part. If you're going to tell me that how do we go from 90% public ownership to 100% public ownership, that's not very hard to do. You have a majority stake in every single company in the entire country. The question is, how do you get to 90% without expropriation?
Okay, so you get to... Okay, first of all, I'll just say this briefly. If that's the harder part, then it's surprisingly achievable. Norway has literally already socialized 2/3 of their nation's wealth. They already have collectivized 2/3 of
What
the
about
national
the
wealth.
firms?
Now,
wealth is not. Wealth is. Why did you say that? I can't tell if you're being intentional.
The only
now.
reason, so I can answer your question
Socializing
directly.
wealth. My question very specifically was, how do you do it without expropriation? To
I
have
use Norway as an
90%
example.
owned firms.
Use Norway as an
but you're
example.
talking
You had
about
a problem.
wealth. I'm not talking about wealth. I'm talking about firms.
The reason why so a lot of the firms in Norway are still privately owned because Norway doesn't have as developed a capital market as the United States. So shockingly, if the United States had Nordic institutions for collectivizing wealth, we would be much more able to socialize our domestic economy than those economies, because a lot of the companies in production in those societies aren't traded on liquid stock markets. Now,
hold on, wait. For Norway, I'm just asking for Norway. If you said of the 90% of the wealth that's publicly owned, how much of that is just tied to their oil? Okay, wait. What you just said was a total lie, right?
I want to answer your question.
Who the fuck cares?
Because controlling 90% of a broad market that's invested across a whole separation of multitudes of industries is way different than just socializing your means of energy production.
No, that's not what Norway. You have a misunderstanding of how these institutions work, and you have such strong opinions on them, and it really it pisses me off at a certain point. You don't know what you're talking about, but you have these very strong opinions. Norway, yes, a lot of the wealth that they've accumulated doesn't necessarily come from their oil wealth. It comes from the returns to their oil wealth being socialized in a public fashion. Okay, so I would agree that one of the prerequisites to Norway's specific success is its oil wealth. But America is a resource-rich country. America has a huge amount of land rents that we could socialize. America has things like a central bank that can create money, debt financing, other tax revenue. The financing for this is just not a question. America is a richer society than Norway. We have more money
financing
to
is
move
not
around.
hard, Econoboi. That's why I'm asking about expropriation. The United States government could. I'm not retarded. You know I'm not retarded. They could print off however much money they want to.
That's why I'm saying we could get to 90% without expropriation. because we have such liquid markets where people are willing to sell their shares for essentially the strike price. And really quick though,
I finally heard a term I've never heard it before. They're starting to talk about very in-depth economics. So this is not something I really studied at all. I'm not an economy guy, so I just haven't had time to look into it. I definitely want to in the future, but I've been focusing on some other stuff recently. Expropriation is the act of a government claiming privately owned property. My tongue hurts, bro. I'm gonna share this stat real quick for people. Is the act of government claiming privately owned property against the wishes of the owners. Bro, I don't know why my tongue is acting up. For the benefits of overall public. Oh, that's not good, right?
Quick finish your point, but then I want to get us back on track.
Yeah,
finish your
we're
point.
getting bogged down. Essentially, my main point, skipping past all of that, is that Destiny made the claim that it necessitates violence. Now, insofar as going from whatever percentage of voluntary transactions we could get up to, 60, 70, 80, 90%, whatever, and then we have to go to the rest of the way with some amount of expropriation. Yeah, you'd have to pass a bill and reestablish some property rights, and you'd have to buy out those businesses.
This is such a weasel. Reestablish some property rights. You'd have to steal from private owners.
I can't make the point.
No, because you're speaking in like the most like wish. You'd have to reestablish some property rights. You'd have to steal all the firms from all the
Wick said he wanted to do another debate about this specific.
Yeah, we can make a one-on-one or something. But so for now, just real quick. For now, I do have a question, maybe to kind of take us on a track that I'm interested in, right?
Wait. Just hold on a second. Why don't we grant that socialism only means what Stephen means and what Connor means? So let's put aside the semantic. So if what you mean is by socialist are specifically Marxist-Leninist.
There was a very interesting economic conversation there. And I also understand what Destiny's saying in terms of there is wishful thinking that they'll be under a democratic process, they'll be willing to give up their firms, so to speak. But the conversation for another day, I guess.
Who wants to do this mass expropriation, then agreed. Then agreed. They shouldn't be in the halls of democratic power. Where's our disagreement?
Okay. No. Hold on. This is another problem between liberals and progressives, and I'll be very calm while I articulate this. My frustration with Econoboi is that expropriation is defined necessarily. Don't fucking touch your nose.
Hold on. Like Counter.
I'm on your panel, you bitch. I can talk when I fucking feel like it. This isn't the Pisco and Destiny hour, you fucking dickhead. So, the definition of expropriation is the action by the state or an authority of taking property from its owner for public use or benefit. Taxation is necessarily, definitionally, expropriation. So what we're saying is that, or at least what I'm saying, is that I believe a fucking free market needs to have a balance between the expropriation of property for the public good and the private market allowed to do its own thing. A private market is necessary to generate the wealth in order to create a welfare state. So if Econoboi is saying, well, we can just go ahead and command slowly through the government voting in, increasing control over public utilities and the parts of the market, then I don't care if it's done democratically. I don't give a fuck.
Okay,
fuck that. I'm going to vote against you, and you're not part of my team.
Okay, nice take. If what you mean by socialism is, if what you mean by socialism is only those people who espouse these Marxist-Leninist ideas that you find to be odious.
Nope. I've defined it for you 7 times.
Let Pisco finish.
Through democracy. You can get it through democracy. That doesn't make it good.
You gotta let Pisco finish. Pisco finish, and then I have a question.
Let's get through the semantic bullshit. If what you mean is that
it's not semantic, I've given you a specific definition 7 times.
Counterpoints, you gotta let him at least finish a sentence.
Then he needs to listen to what I'm saying.
If he's not listening to what you're saying, it will be apparent in what he says.
Yeah,
represented accurately.
So we have a semantic difference. I'm trying to chart that out. Like,
no, we don't.
We literally do. When I say semantic difference,
so you disagree that socialism is a decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production?
Yep. So I think socialism means much. Wait. I think socialism means much more than that because for me, use is meaning.
That's a good. Hold on. That's actually an excellent point. Pisco, what do you mean when you say socialism? Be specific.
So I think when I think socialism, when I think socialism at its broadest, I understand socialism to be workers owning the means of production. That's at its broadest. I think that there's a lot of shades of gray there, and socialism doesn't just mean what Connor means. And the reason that is, I think that meaning, right, that of a word is its use, right? Like if what we mean by a word is there's no like correct objective answer to what socialism means. My theory of like what words mean is how they're used by people in the real day. There's multiple definitions. But if
then Destiny is right that AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zodan Marami Salami are not socialists because they don't believe in workers owning the means of production.
Yo, why do you keep on saying his name, bro? Bro, my tongue does not want me to talk. There's like, I wonder if people have that thing where sometimes there's like, it feels like there's like ulcers on your tongue randomly, and it just comes out of nowhere. It's just like, I don't even know where this came
When you say destiny is quote unquote right, what do you mean by that?
I just said it.
He's right according to his own definition. And your definition.
AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zoltan Manslami don't fucking advocate for workers owning the means of production. So by the definition that you just provided for us, they are not socialists.
So,
which is kind of silly.
I said at its broadest, it's workers owning the means of production, but that means of production.
What does broadest mean?
Broadest means it includes the most amount of people. So if your broadest definition
so if they
does not
identify as
include those
socialist,
people,
wouldn't they necessarily follow under your definition?
Connor, shut the fuck up. What I'm trying to chart out.
Make your words make sense.
Let Pisco go.
I'm trying to chart out a semantic difference. Do you understand what I mean when I say a semantic difference?
Having to do with words
and their meaning. Okay, so in your version of the word socialism, you would not ascribe, for example, single payer to be a socialist policy. You wouldn't say that someone like Bernie Sanders is a socialist. You wouldn't say that China, as it currently exists, is a socialist country, because your definition of socialism is much more narrow. I say let's get past that semantic difference. I think, like, in terms of how people use the word socialist, you guys are just wrong in terms of the usage of the word. But let's get past that. If what you mean. Why?
I will not get past that.
We just spent this whole time arguing about what the right definition of socialism is.
I'm going to throw us back on the place. You're going to circle. You both are going to circle the drain again.
Right, you're
hold on, stop. We are going to get to a more, I think,
disagreement. So you're using it. I think that you guys have a proprietary definition. I think you guys have a proprietary definition of the word socialist. That isn't how people use the word, and it's not charted in.
Before we move on, I want to articulate why this is important. I think that you, in Econoboi, I'll be rude, even though I love you. I think you are useful cock sleeves for tankies. And so you're trying to expand the definition of socialism to mean nice, redistributive social services. So I don't like it when you do that. And I disagree with you.
You're here to give cover to Stephen, and that's fine. But I just want to be very clear.
What cover has been given? I've argued with you directly.
You're trying to make the conversation. You're trying to make the conversation. You're trying to make the conversation impossible. You're not. You're making the conversation impossible.
I've contended with every single argument that you've given me.
You're making the conversation. You're making the conversation impossible.
Wait,
please.
Pisco is going to finish. He's going to finish his point. He's going to ask his question, and then we're going to see if it goes anywhere. And if it doesn't, I have productive ways we can go. So, but counterpoints, hold on real quick. Counterpoints. If you can't control yourself, you will be controlled. Okay? I will mute you. Pisco, go ahead.
I thought this was a panel.
It is a panel, but I will mute you.
When I'm talking about the meaning of a word, I'm really just asking what the ordinary usage of the word is. Like, in terms of what the definition ought to be. If there's any ought to what a word is, it's like, well, how do people use the word, right? So that's what I take to be a semantic difference. And you saying you have a vision of the usage of that word, socialist, which is much more narrow than my conception of how that word is used by ordinary people. But we can put aside that, right? Like, let's put aside this semantic difference about what words ought.
I disagree with that claim that ordinary people kind of determine socialists as I don't even know what he's referring to. I think people, when they hear the word socialist, they genuinely think of like China and Cuba. Like, genuinely, I think the average person thinks of China and Cuba. If we're talking about usage and general perception.
To mean, or what they actually are in any objective sense. And let's just get to the meat of it. If what you mean by socialist doesn't include AOC, doesn't include Bernie and their policies, doesn't include what I think most people would take to be socialist policies, then, and it only includes people like Marxists, Leninists, and Maoists, then yeah, then what's the disagreement? They shouldn't be included.
Disagreement. You asked a question, I'm going to answer it. I feel like I am using a narrow and tailored definition because I think that the people who self-identify as that and actually have read the text related to the ideology, that's how they self-identify. And I think that they are using progressives and liberals and social democrats, and they're conflating these terms back and forth so they can expand at which point they are relevant in the modern social parlance. And I believe that you and Econoboi are helping them, and I don't like it, which is why I'm here to tell you I don't like it.
Connor just keeps Connor, you keep doing this. You keep just asserting that there's some sort of conspiracy broadly within people who identify as socialists to try and sort of co-opt liberal frameworks. And when I point out
you said that
1 millionth time, so I haven't just said that. I was about to finish the point. I haven't just said that 5 times. I've included an explanation of the history of a huge range of different democratic, liberal, socialist movements over time that weren't just pretending until they got power and then they would become authoritarian Maoists. In fact, they were just Democrats, it turned out. Okay. And you keep ignoring that and then reasserting without any backing your conspiracy about the broad 10% of the base of the Democratic Party socialist movement.
Stop, Econoboi. The problem here, right, is that they say that they're doing this. that there is a broad number of American socialist people who
A
live in
very
America
small
who
minority of them say
stated,
that.
Okay.
again, who state
I would also like
that
to
they are
address that.
doing this.
And
They
he-
call
and everyone
themselves
on this
the
panel-
Vanguard.
everyone-
Why do you think
and
they call
everyone-
themselves the Vanguard, Econoboi? Why do you think they chose that name?
And every single person on this panel said, to the extent that there's evidence that people are doing that, they should not be included in the
Condemn it.
movement.
So you are
condemn it,
condemning
yes.
specifically the Vanguard
Okay.
today.
Wait,
on my
wait,
show.
wait,
Okay.
hang on. So,
Oh, no, I
wanna
want
be
to
clear-
specific.
I want to be clear
I'm
about so
asking
the Vanguard.
Econoboi. Shut
I
up,
haven't
Pisco.
heard.
Shut up, Pisco. I'm asking Econoboi. Today, on my show,
Vanguard say?
you are
What did Vanguard
condemning specifically the Vanguard.
What did they
What
say?
Okay.
I don't know what they said. Reference it.
Okay. So first of all, one clue is in the name, the Vanguard.
No,
and we
what
talk
did they
about,
do? Or what's the
What did they
evidence?
say?
What
What's
did
your
they say?
position?
I'm giving you evidence, right?
Like with Hassan, there's evidence that he literally says he just wants to co-opt democratic frameworks. Like
Correct.
he's literally said this, right? So that's
How
pretty
about
good
the
evidence.
tweet today or yesterday calling Pete a rat, or that he looks like a rat, or that he
Yes.
reminds him of a rat or whatever?
Is that evidence that he is trying to institute a authoritarian
Could
communism?
just be mean.
Wait.
What is
no.
acceptable evidence that he's trying to institute authoritarian communism if they work in the media?
Wait. Statements like Hassan gave, correct?
So they've done shows about ignoring the Constitution, ignoring the Supreme Court, dissolving the
I
Supreme
haven't
Court.
seen that.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
they have
So,
it
so,
on you, right?
so to the extent that they have those beliefs, and to the extent that to the extent that
And
they
they
have
call
those
themselves
beliefs,
the Vanguard
wait,
for a
wait,
reason.
to the extent
It's like
that-
if I
wait,
called
wait,
myself
I'm
the
just-
rapist,
wait, let me give you what you want. First of all, the rapist,
the
really?
rapist, right? Yeah,
Okay,
rapist.
yes,
Okay.
fine answer.
So if they have the position that we should ignore the Constitution, if they have the position that we should, ignore democratic systems and get rid of all that stuff, then no, they should not be part of a quote unquote coalition. And if what you mean by be part of a coalition is be at the halls of power, design policy, that kind of stuff. If the prescription,
But I think this is where what Connor and I mean, this is literally what Dustin was saying before. It's annoying when you have to prove without word verbatim vernacular to determine the intentionality behind an ideology, right? It's kind of the same principle behind Donald Trump, even though we give you some circumstantial stuff, the intentionality, the tone to lead up to what his intention is when he becomes a president, an authoritarian, fascist, even though he doesn't say specific things outright, it's impossible to prove it because people are like, well, he didn't say it. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it. That's the point. That's the point of the conversation.
is don't talk to them, I think that's a different kind of thing, right? I don't think is anyone here saying that we shouldn't talk to them?
describing.
Okay.
Don't
All right.
talk to
Okay.
them,
Oh, okay. So to the extent that they have these positions, to the extent that they're crypto about their authoritarianism tendencies, well, there's no disagreement. They shouldn't be a part of the quote unquote coalition. Like what you mean by that?
It's
Yeah.
deeper than
what's the
that.
disagreement?
Can I? Okay, here. Okay, you know what? This is what this feels like. This is why it's such a crazy conversation. Okay, you have two groups of friends, and people in one group really likes Chinese food, and the other group really likes Indian food, and you're trying to vote on where to go to eat. Okay, every weekend. All right, and you have this new group of people who show up, and they say, "I really like wings," and that's the only fucking thing that they ever say about your Chinese food that they like. But you include them in your group of friends who are voting to say, "I want to go eat Chinese food," because they only show up for the wings. But you know that when they go back to their own group of friends, they say, "As soon as we have enough wing voters, we're going to go to the fucking pizza place." That's the issue that we're running into here. Is you're pretending like these guys who only like wings are supporting your entire Chinese food weekly outing, when in reality they're just trying to build up enough people, and they've all blatantly said this so that they have enough people
Yes,
to
they are.
go to the pizza place next week. That's the issue that is
just to
what's happening.
respond to that briefly, okay, and I think I can speak for Pisco on this as well, that my point is that is true with the great minority of people that call themselves socialists.
And I understand.
Destiny, I know you're going to say the media figure. You're going to say the media figure.
You're going to say yes, and you're going to say that of all the voters or whatever. I'm talking about the entire media apparatus. That's why earlier I asked you, can you give me a single person in the media apparatus that identifies as socialist that also supports the Democratic Party?
But then Destiny, okay, so to address your point extremely directly about the entire socialist, Wick.
Oh,
I was
he just
about
asked for
to
one
answer a
one
question.
individual.
No, he said that's why I asked you, but I'm addressing his actual point.
Well,
which was
I
about
want
the
you
media
to
apparatus.
answer if you can.
You want to
I, don't,
separate
I, don't,
them?
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
It's
that's
probably
fair.
the case that
Wait,
almost
isn't that
everyone.
problematic? If you're now identifying as a socialist,
point.
you think
That's
it's
a different point. That's a different
no,
point.
it's the same question that I asked earlier. And it's central to the point that I just gave right now. I asked you for a single person that says they actually like Chinese food, and all you can give me are people who support $15 minimum wage or wings, who really want to go to the pizza place, which is have the Vanguard Party, which is why they're called the Vanguard, which is why they shit on Chinese food or the Democratic Party over and over and over again. And that's an issue.
If we're talking about media figures who call themselves socialists, in terms of like of them who sims for the Democratic Party, it's certainly not a long list to the extent that I could Google and find names right now for you. But so I would agree with that. And so I've already said, and everyone on this podcast seems to be in agreement, that to the extent that many people, and it is a problem, flatly, it is what you're describing is absolutely a problem. To the extent that people in the media space that do that, do the exact things that you and Connor and Wick have referenced, Pisco and I are in complete agreement. It's not that we just disagree, it's that we are in complete agreement that these are not people who should be part of the inner party, who should be part of strategic discussions, who should be part of the messaging of Democrats. What I have said, and this is my last sentence before I guess Connor wants to go, is that people like this should simply be used as other platforms for Democrats to engage in for the purposes of fundraising, for the purposes of spreading their message. If Democrats want to go on Hassan's show or the Vanguard or Breonna Joy Gray or fucking Kyle and Crystal's show, then that they should do that because they should engage in these alternative media speeches.
Sure, but you understand
they aren't part of the inner party.
Sure, but you understand that it undermines the fuck. Wait. You understand that it undermines the fuck out of the Democratic Party if we're saying that all the good things that we support. I call myself a socialist, and I think all the good things that have come to the Democratic Party have come because of socialists. And also, all of the media people that call themselves socialists fucking hate Democrats, and they constantly attack
Do
the
you agree
Democratic
with
Party.
the Econoboi?
It's not that simple, bro. I know you really like the yes or
Do you
no, but it's
agree
not
with
really that
Econoboi?
simple. It's not
Do you
that
agree?
simple.
No, I don't.
So to Destiny's question,
I don't agree with
Destiny, so to your question, Destiny, I do fully agree that it is a problem that there is a disconnect between the typical socialist politician and the typical socialist media figure. I do agree that that's a problem. Okay. The only thing that started this entire discourse for the last week was what I said was, I just don't think that these alternative media, socialist media figures have that much of an effect on electoral outcomes for democratic socialists and for liberals broadly. Okay. And
Wait,
I think
I don't
that
know.
we can generally
What is the? Can I ask you then? Like, so when you look at like the 40-point drop in say like Dearborn supporting the Democratic candidate, do you really think that none of these alternative media spheres have any influence whatsoever on
I would
whether
never
they're just completely
say-
irrelevant or?
I would never say something so stupid as they don't have any influence or that they don't have some determination of the outcome of elections. Okay, I would never say that. When it comes to Dearborn specifically, I think that it is more sensible to say several things. Number one, I would say that generally speaking, it seems like a lot of Muslim immigrants revert to their, not revert, but like there's like a coming to the mean of the average American conservative view over time as they assimilate. You see that with other immigrants groups as well as Muslim Americans. Number two, I think that you see that with Muslim Americans specifically, they are particularly sensitive to the Israel-Palestine issue, and whoever was in government, it blew the fuck up during a Democratic administration, and so there was a lot of reactionary sentiment with that issue in a lot of Muslim communities. I think that generally explains
that reaction. Sure, but two things. One, so you said that it was a problem. I'm not going for gotchas here. Okay, I don't give a fuck about gotchas. I don't
Yeah,
I'm not looking for gotchas. Yeah. But the issue is that all of these elections are so close. So if we agree that it is a problem, and then we talk about how I don't think I don't know. Or never mind. That was edgy.
Wait, do we have a disagreement?
I don't think that they reverted to the mean in one election cycle when it came to voting issues. Okay, I think that if you want to say that they voted because they were super energized by the Israel-Palestine issue, it doesn't.
Pisco and Destiny must have like really fell off. The energy is toxic. I haven't been saying anything recently because they finally started talking about some good stuff, and my tongue is kind of fucking hurting, so it's hard to talk. I mean, I agree for the most part in terms of like what it's all about severity, right? I do think there's a conversation in terms of generalized perception in terms of what the left are and what socialists are. But I also think that you should be able to engage with these platforms to co-opt their platform. I think I would take it a step further though. I wouldn't be friendly with them, but I would be kosher. Like it's kind of like when Lex Luthor and Superman joined together to take out the big villain, right? We're not friends. We just have a common enemy. That's the energy that I would expect.
Makes sense to me that they would vote for Jill Stein, because if you really cared about that issue, I think that the clear choice, even if you think they don't handle it as well, would have been the Democrat candidate over the Republican candidate. So the fact that there were so many people, but the fact there were so many people in the center left saying, or not center left, but so many people in the left-wing media apparatus all saying they're both the same, all protesting the DNC, all protesting all the Democratic candidates. Isn't that a problem?
I think so.
Stop. Why does he keep repeating? Is it a problem? You just heard Econoboi and I agree. It's a problem. Why did you repeat that at the end?
Well, because if it's a problem, then I don't know if we should be trying to appeal to the socialists, which is the name of this panel, appealing to leftists. We should be trying to court them. So they're actively attacking the party, and these elections are already so close, and they're already turning off so many of our voters already. This is just it's only
Okay, this is why I wanted to ask a question earlier, because I think this gets to the heart of the matter. It gets us back on track. And this is a question to Pisco first, and Econoboi,
That was directly
right?
relevant.
This is a question to your
What
side,
Dustin
and then a
brought
question
up.
to the other
Wait,
side.
wait,
I will
wait,
look, counterpoints. I will get to you. I promise, but I'm going to.
When he behaves himself, when he puts his hand up, you yell at him, and when he yells, you yell at him.
You can have it.
You
I'm not yelling at him.
You're not reinforcing good behavior on this panel.
Let me fucking get my point out, okay? Then maybe.
Hey, I'm kind of fucking with Econoboi. I think it has performed the best. I've liked what Econoboi has been doing today. I think he's been doing very well today. Good performance today, Econoboi. Good performance.
We can get to something, okay? The question becomes, who should, as a whole, the Democratic Party, the DNC, etc., who should they be aligning themselves more with? People like AOC or people like Josh Shapiro?
Yeah, I don't understand how that is related to what Stephen was just talking about, right? So we agree. So I thought
This
he was
is
talking.
considered a circuit breaker.
I'll answer the question directly. So to answer the question directly, I think that because socialists are about 10% of the Democratic base, generally speaking, the platform and the types of candidates that we put forward should probably tilt moderate if the only thing we care about is absolutely maximizing our vote share. Okay,
And winning elections.
Now,
Yes, fair enough. Okay.
Now I'll say two things. I'll say that that's not necessarily always the literal only thing that we would care about. Now it's obviously very, very important. But then number two, just because they're only 10% does not mean that we should completely ignore them or treat them as Nazis or completely ostracize them from the movement. That they have to also be appealed to, because the Democratic Party is a party of centrists, moderates, like what you could call like moderate tilt left people, slightly more tilt left people, progressive people, and socialists. Every single one of those groups needs to be represented.
If we can demonstrate that by excising or
what do you mean by that excising? What do you mean?
What
do you mean by that?
I'll explain once I ask a question. Right?
Well, wait. Okay, wait, hold on. I love you, but we're the two that are debating this topic, right? So Wig might have his feeling of it. When I say excise, we're talking about the media environment. If you call yourself a socialist and you constantly shit on the Democratic Party, Pisco, now I'm happy that your messaging evolved on this. Yesterday, you were saying you should go on places like Hassan Stream to fight with them. Sure, that's fine. I agree with it. Nobody, I don't think anybody would
Wait. You just heard something change. What changed? What changed?
That before it seemed like you were a lot more lukewarm on whether or not Hassan is like kind of an ally or whether or not those types of people.
No. You find me one place where I said Hassan is an ally. You can't. I never said that.
I'll comb through your entire vibe. I don't know. Listen, the same way that you've been in this space for 2 years and you can't remember a single thing Hassan has apparently said, I'll say I don't have your exact quote here, okay? But all I'm saying is that it shouldn't be the goal of Democrats to appeal to the center fold of what socialism is.
What do you mean by excise? What do you mean by excise? I don't know what you mean by that.
If somebody calls himself a socialist, if they constantly shut out the Democratic Party, then you don't treat them like they're part of your party.
Wait a second. No. So now we're real different. If someone calls himself a socialist, because you agree Bernie Sanders calls himself a socialist, right?
We're talking about the media sphere.
Okay,
media.
But Econoboi calls himself a socialist.
Sure.
So we should excise him from the party, correct?
If Econoboi was coming on my platform, it's not a yes or no question. I don't even know what part of your life you would, even in your lawyer school shit, you wouldn't have picked up on this yes or no autistic bullshit. So I don't know where any of this comes from.
Answer the fucking question, bitch. Answer the question. Answer the question. Are you going to excise Econoboi or no?
Answer the question. I'm answering the question. If Econoboi was coming on my stream, it's probably generally right now it's going to be to fight over things like we are right now.
Why is this boy so triggered? Bro, Pisco is triggered today. Jesus. That scene got him on edge. I've seen him triggered before when he's debating MAGA, but I don't know. This seems different. It seems personal.
Should go on my stream and hash out something. It's going to be to fight over stuff. Somebody who identifies as a socialist
from the party. Should we excise him from the party?
That's not what we
if somebody is running a show or running a program and they call themselves socialists, earlier I asked you guys, can you name a single one of these people that don't constantly shit on Democrats? And you guys couldn't think of a single name. I would say yes. That is the subject. Essential.
Should I stop Live and Learn? Should he be on the podcast Live and Learn? Should I excise Econoboi?
If all you guys are going to start supporting socialists, yes, you should. It should be on Live and Learn.
Wait. So you think that Econoboi, we should not be platforming Econoboi because he labels himself a socialist? Is that right?
Econoboi is he's like moving in the direction of there. Much the same like Sargon of Akkad was like moving in the direction of being a Nazi.
So even though Econoboi gives you his understanding of what socialism is, he explains himself just as a way I assume that Bernie Sanders and AOC would. Even though he says I'm not a Marxist-Leninist, even though you smeared him as saying he's anti-democratic when he isn't anti-democratic. So even though he caveats all what he means by the term socialism, just because he labels himself socialism, you think that he really shouldn't be on Live and Learn?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't platform him. You guys do what you want with your platform, but I wouldn't want to platform him and say, hey guys, go check out their podcast later. Where anti-democratic party people like the Vanguard will be treated as friends and allies that'll come on to shoot the shit for a while. And then immediately they'll go after their own platforms to relentlessly shut on the Democratic Party.
So why are you hanging out with Myron Gaines?
You deny that any of that?
So why are you hanging out with Myron Gaines?
Because every single time I hang out with Myron Gaines, it's a combative interaction.
Okay, so like, but
wait, hold on, you recognize how stupid I was. You realize you thought you had a big gotcha there. No. You acknowledge like when I hang out with Myron Gaines, it's combative.
That is the core, and that's where I agree, and that's the same energy I had when it comes to like Jubilee versus the Nelk Boys. I am fine if you go on these different platforms, but it's different when you go on platforms and are informed and combat these bad points versus you just are either ignorant like the Nelk Boys or you're just buddy and friendly and think or just kind of somewhat in terms of how your energy is being characterized, kind of like agreeable to what they're trying to offer. It's kind of how I felt about Anna Kasparin and Tucker Carlson's conversation. She was super buddy to that. That wasn't combative at all. So I do think there's a distinctive difference for sure. And that's what I care about.
Wait, you guys have a nice conversation, right? You platform them, you have a nice conversation.
Yes, but it's combative. Nobody comes away from my stream like, hey guys, make sure you go check out Fresh and Fit. Like they have a lot of cool shit.
You guys have been going back and forth. So just to be clear, when the Vanguard came out of the podcast, they were challenged.
They were challenged, correct? Wait, can we get him to agree that? Were they challenged, Stephen?
Barely.
Barely, you fucking nitpicking fuck. What do you mean they were barely challenged?
As in, and if you watch it, I think that for the most part, you're like,
yeah, because you're fucking reacting like a fucking sped, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they're fucking being nuanced, and you're reacting that way. And the way
Mr. Yes or No is going to talk about nuance.
The way that you're fucking presenting it makes people think that, oh, we're socialists, we're well, Econoboi is socialist, but no, we absolutely challenge them on specifically on the point of
hold on, let's give an example of where he challenged, where you challenged specifically.
Specifically on the point of Manchin, specifically on the point of student loans, Stephen, you agree we did challenge them with facts and logic, correct?
Yep, facts and logic.
So when you said barely, what did you mean barely? What did you mean?
Barely is in. I think people would go on that show and they would assume that all of you guys like had a similar political project in mind. You all shared like a political goal, a political project. Yes.
Okay. So why do you get that impression when we're disagreeing with them on specific issues?
Because hold on, fuck this. Everybody else is talking 30 fucking minutes. I've had my goddamn hand up for 30 fucking minutes. There needs to be some variety on this panel. I'll tell you why. It's because you were playing fucking footsie, and when they came to the next fucking day,
let him explain. Let him answer.
All right. So when we were talking about how, oh, everybody's being so fucking mean to Hutch the fucking next day and all that bullshit, then you're like, oh, well, you know, we technically challenged them on their perspectives and all that kind of bullshit, but realistically, anybody who watched it tonally felt like it was like a 5.5 versus 1 against
you guys
Hutch.
sound like the biggest bitch woke scolds tonally. What are you talking about?
What are you talking
about? Bro, you literally, bro, I sound like I got a lisp because my tongue is fucked up right now. What was I saying? What was I thinking? He's correct. You're asking about generalized perceived perception, and it's kind of the same thing when it comes down to elections, public opinion. How are people thinking about what you are doing? That is what matters the most in terms of endorsing or collecting public opinion for elections, right? So in the terms of that reaction, because I reacted to it too, and I put that reaction up? I think I did. I think I put that reaction up. I believe I did. Did I? I think I did. But what I came out of that reaction, no, I don't think I actually did a reaction to that. My reaction to it was very simple. Yeah, you guys are all teaming up on Hutch. So it's not a crazy thing by any means on what Counterpoint is saying. Why is the guy on the holding hand up all the time? Because he's winning.
Gosh, you roll your eyes like a fucking valley girl.
It's like the 2017 centrist.
You're basically
the same thing.
Okay. You did disagree with them, but your tone. It sounded like you were nice in your tone.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the fucking youthful cocksleeve for socialists. That's what it sounds like.
Like Stephen isn't fucking nice in his tone with Myron Gaines. He is. He absolutely is.
Yeah, and he still has contention, and he still clarifies the ideology.
Yeah,
I still have a point 40 fucking minutes ago that I wanted to make. I've had my hand up for 40 fucking minutes.
Counter, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anyways, my turn. Thank you.
Also, I want to be very clear. I also think Destiny is way too friendly with Myron Gaines. I'm going to be very clear. Even though he is combative, he's still too friendly with Myron.
Thank you for coming to the Pisco Destiny show. All right. So earlier, Econoboi made a fucking point saying that I kept appealing to conspiracy. And he's made this point 3 or 4 times. So I want to address this briefly.
Please do.
Mao, Pol Pot, Joseph Stalin, Tito, Castro, every leader in the fucking Soviet Union came together through fucking revolution. Okay? They all came from fucking revolution. Then not just that, but Gramsci was arguing about why leftists aren't relevant in fucking Western societies because they have strong social order. And Marcuse and modern lefty philosophers try to normalize Gramsci and Marcusean argument in order to infiltrate Western societies in order to make them more socialist. Corbyn, Sanders, and Noam Chomsky all swept for authoritarian socialist regimes when they were in power and only disavowed them once it was found out all of their authoritarian abuses of their populations. So when you say, Connor, you're being a conspiracist, I say, no, plenty of youthful Western lefty fucking idiots sweep for authoritarian. They're using the playbook that Gramsci and Marcuse wrote in order to subvert Western societies.
Connor, what would I say in response?
Of conspiracism, when conspiracy is documentable in the words of the people who espouse this philosophy.
Let's see if you've been listening. Let's see if you've been listening. Let's see if you've been listening to what I've been saying. What do you think I would say in response to that?
That you're not like them, that there are plenty of democratic socialists who are actually nice, whose primary motivations are democracy over socialism. Yeah. They're incrementalists. And so as a result, they're not interested in sweeping for the human rights abuses of these authoritarian regimes. And they're not conspiracists. They actually just think that this is the correct ideological outcome.
So if you understand that that is true, and that is at the very least my point, then we've already admitted, we've openly said multiple times that certainly there are a portion of socialists historically and a portion of socialists that live in America that do have these kind of like ulterior motives, right? The thing that I've said is well, two things. I've said, number one, that historically that is not the great majority of socialist movements, that there's at the very least a meaningfully large divide between those two different, methods, you could say, of socialism. And in America, I don't think that even close to the great majority, I don't think even 80%, not even 90%, probably 99% of the 10% of people that vote for Democrats that call themselves socialists, they don't engage in that. So I don't think what you're saying is very relevant.
It's a Pisco show. Okay, one more point before we get back to the Pisco.
And then we can get back to the Pisco Destiny show. I agree.
Okay, so if I told you that I was a democratic fascist and I believed in political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism, but I don't agree with the mass slaughters. And as a matter of fact, I'm like a human fascist. I don't want to do ethnic divides and I don't want to do, racial divides. I actually want human beings to be put into a political corporation, a body, and I want flexibly authoritarian governments or whatever. You would probably still call me a fucking idiot because even though democracy was my primary virtue, fascism is still a dog shit ideology, right?
The question that I would ask you is there a robust history of people calling themselves fascist and then winning elections and then leaving after they lose elections? And you couldn't answer yes to that. You couldn't answer yes to that. But I can absolutely answer yes to that.
Then we'll go back to the drama show, okay? Last point.
Okay.
I think the reason why, I think it's like a house cat versus a lion, okay?
Wait, do you recognize what I just said? How
house cats have been psychologically studied. Hold on. House cats have been psychologically studied that if they were capable of eating their owners, they would. Okay,
You're just trying to say socialists are pussies. I know your game.
I think that Western socialists are house cats. They cannot eat our faces, so they won't eat our faces. But I think if they were the size of a fucking jaguar, they would start eating our faces. And with that, please go start yelling at Destiny some more.
I understand. I get it. I understand what he's trying to say. If they had the ability to change society in a influential way, utilizing socialism, they would completely co-opt it. And I do think that concern has more validity with the current political landscape, considering we had one individual co-opt the entire Republican Party. So I don't know if there's any examples like that in the past, because the addition of resources to kind of create an ideological sphere is more prevalent than ever. And in terms of influencing the youth moving forward, the ones that have the biggest chance of it is socialists. So I really do agree and understand what Counterpoints is saying, because although I like some socialist principles, there is a terrifying aspect of growing socialist sentiment with power that could destroy our country for sure.
Give it to Pisco.
I'm trying to hear the criticism of what we did with the Vanguard, and it sounds like Connor, you identified it, and earlier in our conversation as well. Tonally, it was footsie. Is this your problem with what we did on the Vanguard, Stephen? That's just it.
Okay,
I think tonally,
yes, Stephen, go ahead. Stephen.
So tonally, I prepared more for the Hassan stuff than the Vanguard stuff because I'm more familiar with his content. But like, for instance, when like you immediately and easily would eat the idea that like I would prefer Hassan over Trump as president in a system with absolutely no constraints, like that's.
You can go to Hassan, but I just want to get clarity on this. So as you sit here, do you have a problem?
Totally, my impression with the Vanguard.
Yeah, he's going
you do have an issue. Okay.
My impression was that almost all of the pushback there was coming from Hutch, and I think that's why you guys fought about it the next day, is because Hutch felt like he was kind of on an island there, and that while you guys did disagree with some points like the student loan thing, you were very quick to make a whole bunch of what I would call insane concessions about Biden, whether you're calling him Trumpian or whatever, because he gets mad at the attorney general or whatever else, and that seems weird to do, almost minstrel showish, in front of a couple of people who are literally hardcore like socialists who shit on Democrats constantly. That's surprising to me.
So you acknowledge that we did disagree with them significantly on the student loan point. You acknowledge that I said you can't bully Manchin. You acknowledge I said that, and I supported Hutch on that. And you also acknowledge, by the way, that I supported the notion that Biden had great policies, and that
again, it's not about what you say; it's about how you say it. Pisco, come on, gotta constantly repeat that.
They were downplaying, for example, the Inflation Reduction Act and other measures. Correct?
Yep.
So I did vocalize.
Do you acknowledge that you are giving me exact quotes, and what we're criticizing is the tone? You acknowledge how pointless that is, right?
So I'm just asking. So is your problem the tone of the disagreement and what we're doing?
The problem is that it seems like you guys share a political project, when I would argue that the socialist movement in general and all of the media figures, the Vanguard included, do not share a political project. That while you obsess about building bridges with them, all they do is shit on your candidates in exchange. But you will never have a scenario where the Vanguard or any of these other people are like, oh, we should try to build bridges with more moderate Dems. It will never happen. As
one of the problems the tone? Is the tone one of the problems?
Well,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes. He said yes, Pisco. So really quick, let me ask Destiny a question. So, would you say that the ideological disposition of someone like Joe Manchin versus the ideological disposition of a guy like Joe Biden, would you say that they share a political project?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say that...
Wait, you're doing this thing again. Actually, I'm not even going to allow this. I'm sorry. You keep doing this thing where you jump to elected lawmakers that are working in the system.
The representatives of the
No, they're not. No,
they're not. Literally elected representatives, Destiny. What the fuck?
They're not representatives of an ideological movement. They've won an election in a particular district. That's it. I'm sorry, hold on. Are you going to go to West Virginia to figure out who the movement leader is of anybody on the left wing? I'm going to answer that question. Are you going to go to West Virginia to figure out who is the leader of any kind of left-wing movement?
That's not what I'm doing, Destiny.
Then why would you say that Manchin represents some leader of some movement? They won elections. I'm not talking about politicians. The vanguard are not politicians. I'm talking about the media and environment. That's what I'm talking about.
Would you? Destiny. I'm just using them as an example. Would you say?
No, I'm telling you why I don't like the example. I don't like the example because these are elected officials, not people in the media.
Okay. Well, you referenced.
Okay, hold on. I think I could bridge this gap, perhaps. Right. One of the problems.
No, there is no gap to bridge. He can't find an example in the media, and that's my issue. That's the exact problem.
Okay. Well, look. How about this? How about we just stop? If that's the case, we've already said this several times. Okay. That insofar as people in the media don't share this political project as you've described, they're actually, to Connor's point, they're just hiding their power level and they're actually authoritarian socialists or whatever. We've already agreed several times that that's the extent to which they shouldn't be involved in like the strategic or whatever deep involvement within the movement means. We've already agreed with that several times. So how about this? Well, we can maybe if there's another question you can ask because we've actually already agreed on that topic. Is there anything else?
The strange thing is, so like for instance, right? I think that strictly definitionally, I might be considered a eugenicist because I'm okay with people getting tested to see if their child might have Down syndrome, right? And not having those children, right? Technically speaking, that's a form of eugenics. But realistically, would I ever go out and call myself a eugenicist? Probably not, right? So it's just strange that when you're working in a media environment and then you take on the label of socialist, if you were to look up any other and all other socialist content that's being created in that sphere, all of it is dedicated to shitting on the Democratic Party. That's the problem. It's only gotten worse in the past 8 years.
Shouldn't we promote Econoboi? Shouldn't we promote Econoboi? Econoboi, you're saying like, where's media? A socialist figure who respects the party. Wait.
For our entertainment.
So shouldn't we therefore, if we're looking for these kinds of...
I mean, it seems like the argument is just Econoboi should stop calling him a socialist. It seems like that's Destiny's point. I don't know. I agree. I don't think he should call himself a socialist either. Now, is that the extent of the conversation?
Figures to take some of that energy perhaps, or to use the label and get it back to like the roots that that Econoboi is referencing, at least in specific traditions, referencing the Labour Party in UK and Australia.
MSNBC show.
Yeah, so on that front, why would I kick Econoboi off? Why wouldn't I promote Econoboi?
Well,
because that label has already been co-opted by all of it, not co-opted, more accurately represented. But then I guess this also goes back to the definitional issue, right? Like if you put AOC and Hassan Piker in a room and you give a bunch of people who know what socialism is and they're read on theory, 100 out of 100 of those people are going to say Hassan is more of a socialist than AOC. If you put 100 people read on theory and you say, do you think AOC is more of a capitalist liberal or more of like a socialist? Almost all of them will say she's more of a liberal capitalist.
Square this for me. So you said earlier that okay, it's not necessarily about the socialist label, and you agree that there's a diversity in what that actually means. It's about socialists within the media space. But then Pisco mentions, well, what if AOC retires from Congress and starts an MSNBC show? Like, it sounds like you would be against that, but then you say, no, because she labels herself as a socialist, I would be against it. But now it seems like you're saying it actually is the label.
It's incoherent.
It's absolutely coherent. It seems like coherent because you're not familiar with any of the politics behind any of it. It would be challenging, but the issue that you run into is, so you could say, could they wash the socialist label and make it so that in your mind, I've said this, I don't say it again, I don't think that you are a secret tanky. I hope you're not on the way to tankies. I don't think you are, and I don't think AOC is, just from what I've seen. I don't think she's a secret tanky or anything. Could she, clean the socialist label in a way that these people are more?
I think it seems like another part of this conversation, though, is if Econoboi was to grow his audience would turn him into, not inherently, but like, let's just say if he gets influenced by his audience, like most people do, turn him into more like a Vanguard Hassan type. So in order for him to really garner an audience, he would have to appeal to people who are not socialists in the media sphere. So there's only two ways to go about it. Econoboi, and that's why he does Live and Learn with three people who are not socialists. Econoboi disagrees with everybody that is a media socialist. Econoboi appeals to mostly liberal capitalists. So he can either keep on capitulating to non-socialists, or he can capitulate to socialists, which would turn him into someone who hates the Democratic Party. So there's a little disconnect there that I do think is interesting to dive into. I don't know if they're going to dive into, but it's something worth diving
compatible with a liberal form of government that's not like vanguardism or whatever. Maybe, but then if I look at what's happened over the past decade, when people like AOC and Bernie Sanders have popularized the socialist label, what actually happened? All of the people that worked with them and then were spun off became insane fucking radicals, right? A lot of the people who are criticizing them now are other socialists who are all saying they're fucking sellouts. It seems like that didn't work too well.
So if AOC started a show, media-wise, she quit her job, started a show to promote her ideas, would you have a problem with it? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so you don't have a problem inherently with someone having the socialist label and being a media figure, do you?
No.
So why do you have this prescription?
Let's get a clap. Can we get a round of applause for those? Yes or no?
Hang on. I mean, this is all fucking fun what you're doing.
Yeah.
So why is your prescription there for? If you don't have,
I can't do whys. I only do yes or no's. Can you format that in yes or no question?
I'm gonna focus it. If it's the case that you
multiple choice, I could do. Yeah.
If it's the case that you wouldn't have a problem with AOC if she stopped being a politician, became a media figure, start a show, why then? So you don't have a problem with the principle. Why would you have a prescription that we should kick Econoboi off the show because he's?
Steven, hold on. I have an important question. Steven, I have an important question, and you need to answer it yes or no. Okay. Do you think that Nick Fuentes should be able to have a TV show?
Nice cover for Steven. So
yes, Steven, do you think no. Do you think that Nick Fuentes should be able to have a TV show?
It's a free liberal country.
These are actual questions. These are.
Oh yeah, no shit. But the reason why I'm asking this question, hold on. Apparently you can't understand where this is going. No. I'll go ahead and explain it because you don't understand where this is going.
Wait. Can I real quick? You go right after. This is a really important point. Hold on. You can go right after. Okay. This is if you would have asked me 10 years ago, should AOC run as a far left progressive and never use the word socialist? I would say absolutely yes, and we would all be better off for it. That's what I would say.
Not the question.
Hold on. I do want to hear. I want to hear where Counterpoints is going. Go ahead.
Yeah. Wait, why? Why don't you make Steven answer the question?
The point.
You guys are running cover.
Hold on, stop. What question did he not answer?
No, he memed. No, come on. You know he memed there. You know he memed there.
I'm making a point.
Stop.
I'm making a point.
He's like a white blood cell. He's a white blood cell, and he's trying to stop this because
no, I'm not. This is my point. This is my point.
Conrad had a legitimate point. On the answer to the question, whether or not AOC should make a TV show has no bearing on any other part of this conversation. There was a retarded question.
It's called an internal critique. Hey, dipshit. It's called an internal critique, dipshit. It's called an internal critique.
What is an internal critique?
You had a standard. Wait, and everyone.
Shout out Andrew Wilson, I guess. Internal critique.
Well, no, holy shit, Connor. Everyone knows your standard was, I don't really have a problem using the socialist label if you're a politician, but I do have a problem with it with your media figure. So I'm testing your logic. I'm testing
You're not
your
testing
standard.
it. You're taking a person who's going from being a politician to being a media figure who happens to also be the most popular left-wing person in the United States of America. It's obviously not the standard. You're going to the outer perimeter of things.
So why don't you answer and distinguish it? So why don't you answer instead of memeing out of it?
I already did answer. Do you forget the question? Did you get the answer? I already said yes. If you want to do a show, I guess you could, but I don't think you should use the label socialist. I think it's harmful to the country.
No. I'm not asking.
I know you're not asking because you're only interested in the narrow yes or no questions to go down your particular dialogue tree.
This is why. You have a prescription that we should kick Econoboi off the show because he used the socialist label. That's your prescription. You actually want
the name of your show is Live and Learn, not Sit and Learn, right?
So you literally want us to kick Econoboi off because of the label. I'm trying to test your internal consistency, and you're sewing the fuck out.
We're not here to test my entire internal.
Why wouldn't we do it?
It's not preposterous. I asked you guys if you can name a single other socialist figure in media that supports the Democratic Party, and neither of you dipshits can name even one fucking person. You can't even name one person. You sit here swing out about whether that should be a really good election. You can't even name one.
Econoboi. Wait, is Econoboi example?
No,
he's not. Why? So we shouldn't kick him out.
He literally just fucking converted. Holy shit!
For just converts, we shouldn't enforce this kind of.
Do you think that Nazis? Hold on. Do you think that Nazis can have a positive influence in our media sphere to push people?
If I could, you mean logically possible? Then yes.
Okay, wait, hold on. Do you think that there might be at least one person that could help the Democratic Party or help people get elected? By the way, identify as a Nazi right now. Also, let's say, by the way, AOC identifies as a Nazi right now. Do you think that Nazis can help the Democratic Party? No, wait, I'm just asking. Hold on. I just want to say, do you think that a Nazi could have a positive influence? Yeah, do you see how retarded the question is?
If I might be, you mean logically possible? The answer is yes, but let me just put it to you, right? So your standard was that right now we should actually kick Econoboi off the podcast because he uses the term socialist label. You wouldn't say the same for a politician. You wouldn't say the same for a politician running for office, and so you were given the example of a politician.
Oh my God, Pisco. You know he doesn't want him to get kicked off the podcast. You know that's not what he wants. You know that is not what he wants. This line of questions is fucking stupid. Like, what are we doing here now? All right, bro.
I would that I was making, selling, so you can answer the question. If AOC wants to join the show, should you say yes? Okay, so write that down so Pisco can't accuse me of white blood selling. The point that I was making, for those of you who have ADIQ in the fucking audience, is that Steven, as far as I know, is a liberal. Meaning that he believes in freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. Meaning that socialists... Hold on. I'm not done yet. Thank you. I love you. Shut up. So, if you ask Steven, hey, should a socialist be able to create a TV show? 99% of the time, he's going to say yes. The same way that I presume with Fuentes, even though he's an evil, nefarious Christian nationalist,
no one's talking about.
he's
No
still
one's
going to say
talking
yes
about
to the fucking
no one's talking
question.
about the right to make a show. No one's talking about
That's
your
what you
legal.
asked.
No, we're no.
You guys are all talking past each other. This is frustrating. This is frustrating. This is frustrating. This is very frustrating.
No one's
I just have
no
to
one's
ask a
talking about-
question. I just have to ask the question. Pisco, do you think that there is any utility in gatekeeping a label?
Yeah, sometimes. It can.
Yes. So if you want to gatekeep
No shit.
Democrat or liberal as a label, do you think that it makes sense to say, hey, we can have a show, we can have you on it, but if we're going to call ourselves liberals, you can't be on it because we only accept liberals?
That could be for the purposes.
Socialist.
Wait. That's a different question. So the answer is, if the show is called Live and Learn,
Yes.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem in theory with you having a non-liberal be part of the show, Live and Learn. If that has to do more with, like, I don't know, your artistic consistency or your title being consistent or something. But the question is fundamentally different. The question is, would it be your preference to kick off people who have that label? Not would we want them to change the label? That's not the question. The question is, should we even let them? And when by let, I don't hear, of course, to Connor's preposterous straw man, mean that like legally take away their right to have legally. Yeah, so he's like,
Steven, answer the question. That way he can't accuse me of being a white blood cell because he wouldn't have any fucking evidence for it anyways. Answer his gay little question.
So no one here is talking. First of all, I don't like the heteronormative language. I think it's really distressing. But
I love heteronormativity.
I don't like the heteronormative language. It's distressing. But just by the
I
way,
like the misogynistic language.
By the way, you guys are sewing out about tone, so you're the last people that. But just
Heteronormative language. It sounds like Pisco is moving more to the left. Maybe he's always been this way. I don't know.
to get a fine point on it. The
Hold on,
question
wait, tone is insofar as tone to a certain person. We wouldn't be complaining if you had a bad tone towards somebody that was your ideological
You have a
enemy.
good
The
tone.
issue is
Wait,
having
you had a nice tone with Myron.
ideologically aligned with
You
you.
agree? Did you agree that you had a nice tone with Myron Gaines?
Nobody
Yes
will come out
or
of that.
no?
It
Do you
is a
agree that you had a nice
combative
tone with
tone.
Myron?
Nobody will come out
Okay,
of that
so-
conversation. Tone is more than just your
You
actual
were playing
timbre of voice.
footsies, were you?
Hold on.
Yeah,
How many people would come out of that conversation thinking, "Wow, Destiny and Myron seem to agree on quite a bit"?
And how many people would come out of that conversation and think, well, sorry.
Ah,
If they're
careful!
watching-
You guys did something because you knew how much
Hey, wait,
how legit you were.
no, stop,
Oh my
stop.
God!
Wait, Steven,
Exposed in
shut the fuck
8K,
up. Wait,
120 FPS, fucking 120 frame rate, 240 refresh rate on monitor, broadcasting live, all the fucking world exposed.
So, no, I'm not backing off at any position. So I'm saying, if you watch the actual stream and listen to the words being said,
Yo, they are soying out. Oh my goodness. Oh man, I can't believe I've been doing this. I'm reacting to the full thing. It's just too important of a conversation. Now, do I think this conversation has been productive? Fuck no, not at all. But we're gonna finish
no
it
one
out.
would come away from that thinking that we didn't combat them. If they watch the Destiny stream, where you're smearing us,
I
you're
watched
smearing
your
us as
stream. I don't think you pushed back very well.
Wait. You look at the chats.
So if you watch the
I don't
Destiny
think you
stream,
pushed back.
I watched
well.
13 out every
Learn.
2 seconds, and if you watch the Destiny stream,
I don't watch
then maybe you get that impression. But if
Oh,
you
okay,
actually
wait,
watch
I'm
the
curious.
stream-
Wait, if you look at the chat, do you think there were more people in my chat who were favorable to Myron in our conversation, or more people in your chat that were favorable to Vanguard?
That's not the analysis. That's not the analysis at all. The question is,
I don't answer that question because you know exactly. That's the whole point. Thank you. That's the point. That's the point. That is the point. That's the point.
Answer the question. Do you have a nice tone with Myron? Yes or no?
The point of tone is
Did
what
you
is
have
the
a
message
nice
that you
tone?
are
Yes or
conveying
no?
to the audience.
Did you
The point
have
is
a
what
nice
is the
tone?
message you are conveying
Did you
to
have
the
a nice
audience.
tone?
If it
Did
is
you have a
the
nice tone?
fact
Yes or
that
no?
at the end
Did
of the
you have a
day,
nice tone?
most of my audience, the vast 99% of my audience, all disagree with Myron, that means that I'm doing my job. My tone is appropriate for that. I would not have the same tone in my audience as agreeing with Myron. I would probably change my tone and become more harsh. I know you really want to.
Oh my god, this is so childish. Political debate, by the way.
Your audience is like, who the fuck knows if they're socialists or not? Half of them are, right? Like, unironically, not the nice kind like Econoboi, the Marxist-Leninist kind like your co-host.
Yeah. So wait, my co-host is Marxist-Leninist?
For Aaron, is an ML, yes. That's like where your audience is direction of the going, yes.
You understand that Aaron says she's not a Marxist-Leninist. Do you agree with that?
I don't identify people. You know that Trump doesn't call himself a fascist, right?
Yeah. So what's your evidence? What's your evidence? Is your Marxist-Leninist? Go.
Ask her about political beliefs. Next time you're
No. You made an assertion, didn't you? Did you?
Yeah, and I
because she would support the violent overthrow of the capital class and would say the only way to bring about class consciousness and social revolution is to
What's your
violence.
evidence to that? What is
Prior conversations. I
What is
don't
your
know
evidence to
what
that? Wait,
Prior
prior conversations.
conversations.
What did she say? What did she say? What did she say?
I don't have the fucking VOD offhand. Are you serious? You need me to have the VOD? You want me to have
Tell
the
me.
exact fucking
Tell me what she said, you bitch. Hey, bitch. Tell me what she said. Hey, no, but bitch. What did she say?
Hey, at least Econoboi can come out of this looking very good. I feel like Econoboi became a star in this conversation because Destiny was actually praising Econoboi a lot. Connor was, having some good banter with Econoboi. Econoboi seemed very intelligent here. I do think he undermined certain things, but I already said that multiple times in the stream. I don't want to repeat myself. Chat out Econoboi, bro. Keep doing your thing.
Hold on. Let me do a little translating here. I would like an example from Destiny. What specific position or take that Straighteraid has had
My head
that you
back.
feel leads you to believe that she's a Marxist-Leninist?
But in the past, when we used to hop on stream and like argue, her position is generally that of like a revolutionary socialist.
Name one
been her-
position.
She would support the violent overthrow of the capital class. She probably thinks the only way
Have
to
evidence for that. That's conclusory. What's the evidence? You say probably.
Hold on,
Name
hold
one
on.
position.
You think that
just
is a
said that they had a
position, and in
conversation
order to bring
about
about the revolution requires a violent overthrow of the capital class.
And you're saying that
You're just
Straighteraid
making
has
shit
made that position. That's her position. Is that she has said
On stream.
that the or maybe in a
Yeah,
talk or
this is
She
years ago. I
canvassed
don't
for
have
fucking
the
Democrats. She canvassed for fucking what is this? Progressive
but that's
victory.
what she didn't say that.
And
Hold on.
nothing.
Stop,
You
stop,
have nothing. You have
stop.
nothing.
Pisco, you understand that just because she
Except for him saying it.
canvassed for Democrats does not mean that she does not hold that position.
So here's my evidence that she's not a Marxist-Leninist. One, I asked her, are you a Marxist-Leninist? Do you uphold it? Wait. That is a piece of, wait. If you're going to take things that she said as evidence that she's a Marxist-Leninist, then you're going to accept things that I asked.
The whole point is to be subversive. No
think
shit, they say no. What the fuck?
Okay, so
Holy
what's the
shit.
So is it your position she openly says it or she doesn't say it? What is
No,
it?
she advocates for the policies and positions that a Marxist-Leninist would, like the need for a vanguard
Right.
party to have a. I already said the fact that you need a violent overthrow of the capital class is like the classic hallmark
She never
position
said
of a
that.
Marxist-Leninist.
She never
Okay.
said that.
All right.
She never said
Ask
that.
her.
You know
Okay,
it.
then the
You're-
next time you guys have a show, you should ask her. You should
Yeah.
say, hey, do you
Never
think that the
said that.
capitalists would willingly give up control of their property, or do you think you would need some kind of like violent revolution
Yeah,
in
I
order
will.
to take the property from them?
Yeah,
Okay,
I will. And if
All
you're right,
right,
I'll give you a W. But the thing is,
The problem
you're
is
wrong.
if she is being subversive, all she'll have to do is lie to you. Right? That's the
Well,
problem.
then it's literally unfalsifiable. Well, then it's literally unfalsifiable. Then it's unfalsifiable, right?
I don't think that she would lie about
Is
that.
it
I don't think
unfalsifiable?
she would lie about that.
Wait, Stephen. What would it take for me to show you that she's not a Marxist-Leninist? What would
You understand that right now, when
What
both
would
of
it
you, right now, when both of you have staked your reputation now on this question that's publicly said, there's no real thing I could give you right now, right?
So I'm asking you, is it unfalsifiable?
You understand that both of you are
What
literally
evidence would it take? What evidence would it take to convince you otherwise? That's a simple question. You can say nothing. Nothing will convince you otherwise. You can say it.
unless she has like genuinely changed her political beliefs over time.
Will anything change your mind about that position? Yes
I'm
or
sure,
no?
if there was like a debate that she had like 2 months ago and somebody linked me and she was like, oh no, like I don't think that like these ideas are necessarily good or whatever. Then yeah, they're like, oh shit, maybe she changed her beliefs.
So we'll go through the receipts of what Straighteraid said, and if a thorough search of her records or of her fucking public statements doesn't
Okay, Clippers,
anything
go,
about a
go
violent
look for the
revolution.
clips. Go search.
doesn't say anything about a violent revolution, will you retract your statement? If a thorough search of her record, will you retract the claim that you just made that she's a
If she,
Marxist-Leninist?
hold on, I submit. Okay, here we go. We were linked this. I submit this to the chat. Go play it.
Hold on.
Play it down for us.
Give me a second. Let me
God damn, we got to
Pull
look
it
up
up.
clips and shit. What is this?
Yeah,
History
we got
class?
it.
Yes, yeah, we
Hold
have
on.
every single quote.
Yeah.
I guess for every
Yeah.
single.
Substantiate that. You have a
Hold
study?
on.
Share your screen,
Let
share
me
your
pull this up on stream.
You have a
Yeah, so
study?
everyone can see. Right? We can share my screen. Let me show you.
Yo,
I'm
is
sharing it.
Pisco about to get
we
cooked?
don't want to wash here. Okay. Oh no, that's the wrong one. He already did it. There we are. Okay, let me get through the commercial.
The great challenges in this world.
Okay, give me a
is knowing
second. Yeah,
enough
blah blah
about
blah. We don't
socialism
care. Neil
to
just
think
grass
you're
guys.
right.
I don't know if
Okay,
that's
here we are.
serious or not. So I don't like. Are you a vocal socialism? We have some
No, I'm
disagreement.
not.
Okay, so you're not a
have to watch
socialist.
No, I'm not a socialist. I'm
Okay,
a
so-
communist. That's why it says commie.
Oh, are
I'm not
you
a socialist, I'm a
okay,
communist.
so
What's the
we go.
difference?
Yeah.
Explain to it.
I actually feel like mainstream people who call themselves socialists are actually communists, but they're too scared to say that they're communists, so they call themselves socialists because right now that's kind of like where the cultural zeitgeist
Hey,
is permissible of.
Yes.
And-
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're good. Okay,
Okay.
I'm good on that. I'm good on that one. I'm good. I'm ready for a piece of soy.
Hold on. Hold on. Before everyone. Hold on. I have to ask directly. Stop. I'm asking you, Pisco. Is that sufficient evidence to you?
No.
No,
wait,
that
wait.
her saying
The-
I'm a
wait,
commie
the answer-
is not
so
sufficient evidence that she's a communist.
The answer is I know that Aaron says she's a commie, and and Stephen, you can tell he's fucking soying the fuck out because I acknowledge that Aaron has said that she's a commie is a position she's had. The question wasn't is she a commie or not, and you are the one who says, by the way, Stephen, your whole point is you can't just go off the
You're
label.
absolutely
Wait,
cooked on this. You're smoking. Your
Destiny,
corpse
Destiny,
is smoldering on this.
Destiny, wasn't it you?
No, he already said that he knew she was a commie. I've heard him say that before. So I mean, I think this is fine. All right, depends on how he rebuttals this. Let's see. He'll get cooked if he doesn't rebuttal this well.
Smoldering.
Wait, Destiny, didn't you just say that
You're about to pull out the most pedantic argument we've ever heard in our entire life.
Destiny.
She said, I think socialists are too
Destiny.
scared to identify as communists,
Destiny.
implying that it's a more radical position. But go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Say this. Yeah, what do you got?
Destiny, did you
Yeah.
just say before that you should not take the label to be indicative of whether that person is the thing? Did you say that? That's all I'm
I
asking.
said it's not necessarily. It doesn't mean they're not,
Okay.
but not necessarily.
So for example,
So, for instance, when she labels herself as a communist and then she supplies additional argumentation saying, I call myself a communist because I think that most socialists are too scared to even call themselves that, there'll be an additional argument for the label. Yeah.
Stephen, I just one more question. Yesterday, did you say that all socialists are communists? Yes or no?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think that all socialists are communists.
You did say that all socialists are communists.
Well, hold on. Straight Rate agrees with Destiny.
Did you have the exact same position that Aaron just had?
Yes,
They'll get the clip yesterday. You saying all communists are socialists. You did say that, didn't you, yesterday?
I probably also said all MAGA are like pedophiles. You think I actually genuinely believe that all MAGA are pedophiles?
So you aligned. So were you right then or were you right now? Were you right then or were you right now? Were you right then or were you right now?
Well, if it's like a serious conversation where somebody's trying to tease out my political beliefs, like when Aaron was inquired about her beliefs there, it's probably going to be a lot more serious than me just saying like fucking socialists or communists or whatever, right? For instance, when Econoboi earlier asked me, do you think that I'm like a techie or whatever? Like, no, I don't think so. I think Econoboi is genuinely where he's at politically. So I've already disproved the quote mine and you're trying to get me on. I don't think Econoboi is a secret.
So yesterday, everyone can see it. Everyone can see it. Yesterday, Stephen said. Yesterday, Stephen said.
Quote. Yesterday,
Stephen said. Yesterday,
know what Marxist.
Yes.
I think Pisco and Destiny should just fuck and make up. There's a lot of sexual tension between the two right now.
Destiny,
so yesterday,
maybe it's kind of the reverse of like all Destiny's sexual relationships with women. You know how every time he has sex with women, they all end up hating him. Maybe if he just ended up having sex with all the male people, like maybe if he fucked Hassan, then he wouldn't hate Hassan. Well, to be fair, people say he fucked Nick Fuentes, and Nick Fuentes and Destiny don't like each other. So maybe he's just cooked all the way around. maybe he just cooked all the way around.
Yesterday, Destiny said socialists are communists. There's no distinction. He said there's no distinction between socialists and communists. And now,
being literal, or was he talking about power?
It's all jokes. When I you can't hold anything to Stephen, obviously, because there's always fucking some opposite quote or something, and then he's just joking.
No, I just don't have autism, so I can understand.
I can ask. Wait, can we do this right? Same thing.
No, probably not.
I mean, I do.
Econoboi, do you think that I think that socialists and communists are the exact same thing?
No, probably not.
I mean, I do. I think they suck.
Okay.
Easy. Well, crazy how that works. That's your debate partner.
What did you mean? So what did you mean when you said that? Actually, what did you mean?
I don't know. What was the context of the quote?
I already know the context of the quote because I already saw the fucking clip. He was talking about power levels. He was saying that fucking he's saying that socialists hide their power levels. They're actually communists. He's saying that fucking sock dems are hiding their power levels. They're actually socialists.
Which is funny because that's what Aaron just said. She's hiding a lot of social power.
You've been talking for 20. You've said that. Okay. So by the way, this backs up your argument. You've said that social democrats are everybody who identifies as a socialist is actually a social democrat.
So now when you get caught, now there's shades of gray. And now when you get caught, now the shades of gray matter.
Let Pisco finish. Pisco, finish your thought.
So now when you get caught with the contradiction, now it's like, oh, okay, I guess not all socialists are these fucking Marxist-Leninists. I guess when you call yourself a socialist, it doesn't really matter. So you get caught on that shit, and now you're taking the position that socialism is a broader term. It doesn't just mean the tankies. It doesn't just mean the Marxist-Leninists. You're absolutely correct.
From the beginning of this conversation, didn't I say that socialism can encompass a lot of different things?
You did.
Wait, hang on a second.
Why do you think your statement is?
I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
So I just read things that you said in the debate, and then I repeat it in a condescending voice. Am I making like a really good point?
The answer is I don't know. So if you acknowledge there are shades of gray socialism, then there are some socialists that you would absolutely have within the fold, wouldn't it?
No.
Oh.
Just like there might be shades of gray classical liberalism, but if somebody calls themselves a classical liberal and then they associate with exclusively Nazis, I probably wouldn't allow that person to be within my fold.
Okay, cool. So
notice how that was a one-to-one analogy. You're agreeing.
No, it's not one-to-one.
Just real quick.
No. I'll explain why it's not one-to-one. I'll explain why it's not one-to-one because Econoboi points you to a tradition, a peaceful, robust tradition of socialists in Western countries that don't include all the negatives that Nazism by its sort of
because they're house cats who can't eat your face yet.
That's why it's not a one-to-one comparison.
Well, let me ask.
That record, and you want to ignore it.
Let me ask.
But that's not true because a lot of people would say somebody like Reagan was a fascist, and we came out okay from having Reagan as president. You're laughing now, but people abuse the term fascist, and they talk about Bush as being a fascist as well. And guess what? We survived that as well. And so people say that they were socialists or whatever, that's fine. But guess what? All of this worked under the fascists and the socialists together. Guess what? It worked under a liberal capitalist government. And that's the type of thing that I think we should be defending. Not a full-on socialist government, because that's always been a fucking shit show, and not a full-on fascist government because
I have a question for Econoboi. So, do you extend that? You laid out the history of socialism, but when Straight, who does a show with Pisco, right, calls herself a communist, do you extend that to communism? Do communists have are just these things that can coexist with liberal democracies?
Okay, so I'll answer the question directly. Even Marx himself, this is a direct quote from Marx, said that things like lower stage communism would be stamped with the society that we lived in the past. Okay, now what he meant by that was that lower stage communism, as communism comes into being, that during that process, the stamps of the current society that we live in will be present in lower stage communism. What he meant by that,
historical example of a communist party, like a communist taking power in a liberal democracy surviving that.
I'm telling you what the most famous foundational thinker of communism literally thought communism was.
I just want a historical example.
Now, Your question was, could communism exist within liberal frameworks? Okay. Marx himself advocated for many things that we would call liberal. He said things like freedom of speech, the equality of people, the fundamental freedom of people to coexist with each other were important characteristics of communism as it comes into being, and communism when we get to like supposedly the final stage of communism. So to answer your question, yes, liberal values would exist.
Which country where a communist?
Can you admit that I just answered your first question at the very least? That I directly answered your first question? I need to acknowledge
follow-up question. But my follow-up question matters too, right? My
What's your
follow-up question after you ask that is, okay, if that's possible, give me an example in the real world where it's happened, where a communist party has come to power and a liberal democracy has survived.
The only example that I'm familiar with, and I'm not totally familiar with the history of here, obviously I've been focusing on European experiments. The Kerala province in India, which like tens of millions of people live in, has been run by communists for basically the last 50 years, and they're actually a Marxist-Leninist party, and they operate in democratic frameworks, and they do basically, they have a liberal kind of style system of government within their general ethos. Now they are Marxist-Leninists, right? And I'll admit, I could be misunderstanding the area of Kerala because I'm not totally familiar with the region. But they do have elections, and they do have elections, and they do call themselves communists. Their leader is literally a guy named Stalin.
The reason I'm asking this, and I'll give it to you, Pisco, but I want to explain the reason I asked this question. The reason I asked this question is because the whole debate is about, right, like the accusation against you and against Econoboi is that you're giving cover to people who want to infect the Democratic Party with things, illiberal values that we would be against, that would destroy democracy, right? And your co-host has just admitted, at least we saw in 4K, that she is a communist, a full-on communist. And
wait, but when you say she just admitted, you understand that I know, and I've never represented, and it wasn't an own for anyone to put up a clip of her calling herself a communist. But
Pisco, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The point is the willingness to invite people that is damaging for the Democratic Party. Can you communicate with them? Sure. Can you debate them? Sure. But the idea is to detach what they represent and what they want for the country is not what you represent and what you want for the country. And not only can you disown that verbally, you have to showcase that with actions. You have to be antagonistic in terms of the rhetoric they're espousing. You got to not be playful and agreeable and understanding of the rhetoric that they want to use against the country of America. You have to fight back against it. You have to make it very clear that we do not agree ideologically with your actions and your words. So that's what's important here. That's what is valuable in this conversation.
Reason why it was done and presented that way is because as though it were contradictory, when the whole point I was making is show some basis that she's a Marxist-Leninist. Now you can say, like, as you are trying to imply, that historically it's impossible, this kind of society is impossible. That's fine. It's not a contradiction, right? There are a lot of anarcho-communists or anarcho-capitalists where you could say, show me one place where anarcho-libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism or anarcho-communism has worked and it hasn't descended into chaos and some kind of kingship or some kind of thing. And yeah, you can be against them, but you would not call an anarcho-capitalist a fascist or a tyrant or an authoritarian just because there's no example of it working. It would be inaccurate to call someone, even if they're deluded, even if they think like, okay, my way will work, all these other times they did it wrong, that it's not accurate to call that anarcho-capitalist or that anarcho-communist a tanky. It's just not. And I think that you must acknowledge that. Like, if you acknowledge that, for example, in the Spanish Civil War, anarcho-communists were communists were killing each other over these like differences in ideology and the
no, I take your point.
things.
No, I take your point.
Yes.
But like when I say communist, I mean Marxist-Leninist. That's what I mean. Whether it's technically true or accurate, right? Just like as you said,
you don't care. You don't care if it's
about
true.
Socialists, people define it broadly and mean different things. What I'm assuming most people mean, right, when they say they're a communist, is they're a Marxist-Leninist. It's
right. So why don't we just get past the semantics and actually get to the actual prescriptions? Let's get past the semantics and just say, all right, in terms of prescriptions, what do we want? Like, do you want me to cancel a show with Econoboi because he labels himself a socialist? Do you want me to stop interacting with anyone who labels himself a communist, or hosting a show with that? So what do you actually want?
That's not any of my
Nobody's advocating for that, Pisco. Nobody has ever advocated for any of that.
Advocacy.
I want you to own them in the marketplace of ideas.
But I do have one more clip we have to play.
That's what I want to, except Econoboi. I actually like Econoboi, and I like some of his ideas. Not all of it. Econoboi is weird because like he's true to the value, but the general socialist does not align with Econoboi.
We can watch that just real quick.
30.
And then we will get through it. Sorry about the ads. I am poor. I don't have.
And issue by issue, I'll be able to tell you because that's going to be more clarifying than just giving you a label.
Are you?
Because people just project onto it whatever they want.
Are you in favor of abolishing private property?
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay,
Which-
well that's
okay.
pretty simple.
You say these things and you have this tone of voice. It's like
Yeah, you
like
can't
a
tell if
smirk.
she's
So I
serious
can't
or
tell if
not,
you're being
yeah.
sarcastic or not.
She's so serious.
I know.
No, I'm dead serious on that one.
Okay.
I am. But
And
I guess
so-
I.
Is this what we wanted to see?
What's the contradiction there?
I don't know.
There's
All right,
no
what's the next
contradiction, right?
topic?
Wait. So you understand, as part of your definition, right? As part of your definition for what socialism meant, it entailed people being against private property, and private property here meaning capital, right? The means of production. So that is not inconsistent with someone being not a Marxist-Leninist. Just because you support the abolishment of private property doesn't make you a Marxist-Leninist. Do you agree, yes or no, Stephen?
Do what?
Do you agree, yes or no, that just because someone
What kind of communist is she then? Like, I don't get the point. What type of communist is she? What version of communism is she? I don't know. At this point, I have no idea.
someone's in favor of the abolishment of private property, that doesn't necessarily make them a Marxist-Leninist?
Not necessarily, but
Okay,
if you're too scared to call yourself, or if you say you don't want to be socialist, but you are more extreme than that and you're a communist, if you say that you're in favor of like the abolition of private property, if you say, we don't have to watch it, I guess, but our last clip is, and I'm sure you'll explain this one too. When you say things like, oh yeah, I wish AOC would like a socialist revolution in the United States, where revolution historically is like aligned with a violent revolutionary overthrow of the
AOC
class.
says revolution. Those politicians themselves are going to say
This is the
different when
issue.
the
And
politicians
this
say,
is- and this
Oh,
is-
you're
this
hitting my
is
point.
exactly why I said earlier, I don't think AOC should call himself a socialist, because this is the game. This is like the meme, right? I don't think AOC means a violent revolution when she says it. I don't think so. But like, this is the game.
But Aaron does. But Aaron does. You think Aaron
Absolutely,
does mean violent
yes.
revolution?
Of course,
And
yes,
that's based
of
on
course.
so why are you distinguishing how AOC says it and Aaron says it? You justify that. Go.
Because when Aaron says it, Aaron says that she thinks that most socialists would.
Yeah, Pisco is kind of falling into. It's kind of weird because Econoboi considers himself a socialist, but I feel like Pisco is falling more in the leftist trap. I wonder why that is. Is it because of the people he's associated with? I don't think it's his audience. It could be his audience, actually, maybe. I don't know. Because he's been exposed to a lot more leftist individuals, right? Breaking Points, I think he's been on there twice. He defended Hassan. He not attacked, but he went up against Ethan Klein. I mean, it's hard because is he just more of a leftist than I imagined? I thought he was more liberal. Is he just more of a leftist than I thought? I don't want him to be pushed to the left. I actually like Pisco, so I don't know. But he's qualifying a lot and playing a lot of defense. Playing like KG out there. You
Be
feel me?
communist, but they're too scared to say it publicly, implying that her position is more radical than what most socialists would admit to.
Entailment there. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't show what you just said.
When somebody says,
Definitely means something.
no, stop. You think it's more likely that it's more radical or less radical when she says that? What do you think that means when she says, I think most people wouldn't own being... No, I want you to understand that. When she says, I don't think most people would own being communist publicly, so they call themselves socialists. What does she mean when she says that?
I think she says that communism has a particularly negative connotation and denotation, sort of embodied in the definition. But that doesn't imply. That's just saying that she thinks that the distinction between a socialist and communist doesn't make
Why
much
don't we
sense.
just ask her?
This is not a time game.
Would
This
we-
is
would we-
ridiculous.
would we all be
Yeah.
like,
Like, socialist doesn't have a
Wait,
negative distinction in the United States, but communist does? Like, what a delusional take.
Wait.
Like, this is
You acknowledge I didn't just say that, right?
What you said that...
You acknowledge I didn't say
That's what it says.
socialism doesn't have a
Restate it.
No, it was comparative, right?
You said you made it sound like communism has a negative connotation versus socialism. I don't think there is one.
Did you acknowledge that what I said there was comparative? I said comparing socialism and the term communism. And do you agree that communism has a more negative connotation than socialism? Yes or no?
Not meaningfully, no.
You don't think that the term communism, so you don't think there's a meaningful distinction in the connotation of communism and socialism in this country?
No. There is not a single person in the United States where you go, hey, somebody's like, are you a communist? You're like, oh, no, I'm not a communist. I'm a socialist. I'm like, oh, who?
Is my hairline straight? I feel like it's not. It's hard to tell,
No,
bro.
that's fucking
I'm-
stupid. And there's not a single group in the United States where you're hanging around a bunch of people who are like, oh, I'm socialist. And you're like, oh, you're socialist? I'm actually a communist. I'm like, oh,
We live in a
that's
different country.
so no,
We live in a
it's
different
fucking stupid.
country.
It's such a
You and
stupid-
Stephen, you and I live in a different country. Obviously, so the proof is in the pudding. Do you think that Mamdani would have won the Democratic primary if he called himself a communist?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay, I don't think he would have won. I think that there's a much more negative connotation on the term communist and they're socialist. And I don't even think that your audience, as sycophantic as it is, would deny that.
I mean, sure, but like, why are you defending her if she calls herself a communist? Then I just don't. I don't get the defense. I don't even get the. I don't even get the point of trying to differentiate terms. I just don't get what we're doing here.
I think right of Biden, these are synonyms.
I mean,
What
I
does
think
that
it's okay. To be fair, I think it's obviously the case that, I mean, intuitively, right? I think there's a reason why a shitload of people in America identify themselves as socialists but not communist, right? Like, I think that there probably is both an ideological disagreement
No
with people
shit.
who would generally call themselves communists, and also generally much more of a stigma for people who label themselves as communism. If these things were substantially the same and had substantially the same amount of stigma, then obviously you'd see a significant, basically
Straight
mixture of
Arade's
those two.
point.
But you'd see,
Because I think you're allowed-
you'd see a significant mixture of those things, but you don't. You see overwhelmingly people calling themselves socialists and not communists.
Because you're allowed to attach yourself like a cancer onto the democratic movement. That's why we have all these cute and clever words of like social democratic, democratic socialist.
Yeah,
Like,
Justin, why don't they call themselves? Why don't they call? Why don't they?
Yeah,
Justin,
why don't they be communists?
Why don't they call themselves democratic communists then? Like it would be. It would be.
Straight
Like,
Arade
I
just
think
said.
that's not the term that took hold. I don't know. Maybe eventually they'll make their way over there. I don't know. If they use communist
Your
and
ego,
socialism,
your ego is so beyond everything. So right now, you know that you're cooking this point. You know but you can't optically right now because, oh, you know what?
You just heard your co-host say that they were for the abolition of private property, and they wish that more people would identify as communists, but too scared to do so publicly. And you don't think that they're like radical as fuck in terms of the martial leadership.
Right? Even when everyone, not even Connor will defend this point, Mike Baltel, he won't defend the point that communism doesn't have a more connotative, like negative, connotation.
I already said it did, but I don't think it's like meaningfully more negative. Why are you saying? Oh, did you not hear me say that earlier? Did you not say it's more meaningfully?
No. So I'm obviously saying meaningfully more different. It's meaningfully different.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like an opportunity to speak because
Sure,
I've
but
been nice
before
and
you
quiet for a while.
do, I do.
Fuck my ass.
I do have a question for the panel. If Straight Arade wanted to come on and be interrogated about these things, would that be?
I would love to talk to Straight Arade.
We have to talk about Hassan. We
I
haven't
would
talked
say
about
do it
Hassan
after because fuck all that. Do it after everyone.
Do it after.
We have to talk about Hassan, don't we?
We'll get to that.
Let's talk about Hassan.
Give it to Counterpoints,
So
and then we'll
what
get
I
to
want to talk about is like, all right, so take
hold on.
take
It's my turn.
Connor's critique. Yeah, I want to hear about it. This is what I'm curious about, and I want to know if you have anything to speak to. How do you think that we, mere mortals, live and learn, how should we conform our conduct? What would you like to see from us that we're not doing right now?
I actually have something that I think you'd be quite amenable to. So if you actually think that capitalism and mixed economy capitalism is preferable to socialism as I defined it, the decommodification of basic human needs, workers owning the means of production, if you think that's genuinely better than when you have MLs or when you have socialists onto your program, I would like to see you challenge them, not just on rhetoric and efficacy and all that kind of bullshit. I would like to see you fight them on the economics.
This is how cooked this is, right? Like in that conversation with the Vanguard, we weren't discussing liberalism versus capitalism. We were discussing the best way. Wait, let me finish my thought. We were discussing the best way to get Biden's agenda. That's what's so silly about this whole thing. We were discussing about what tactically we should have done for Biden's agenda. So for you guys to paint this as it was ideological and you didn't get pushback,
I don't need a 5-minute sermon.
No, it was about tactics to enact Biden's vision.
I don't need or want a 5-minute sermon. So so Pisco, let me tell you about this. Okay, this is my problem. This actually, and it's indicative of this entire 2.5-hour conversation. What I'm saying is that there are authoritarian dissident freaks on the far left and on the right. And on the right, the dissident right-wing freaks have infected and destroyed the party that I was a part of. 55% of the party that I identified with growing up is now dead because of these fucking monsters. And so when I look to the left and I see a bunch of normie liberals, capitalists, fucking all this bullshit, playing footsie with revolutionary socialists, not only does that turn me off, hold on, I'm not done yet. Thank you for your condescending look and your open mouth. I don't need it right now. Thank you. So when I see that, I'm going to criticize it because what I don't want to happen is you and other people like you spending 3 hours sweeping for the fucking far left. And then as a result, they become more powerful and more emboldened. It's indicative.
That I 100% agree to that. And that's my biggest concern too. Because you have so many indicators that this could be the case. And you got to nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem. There's a reason why Hassan is doing a lot of stuff with Mamdani. He's attaching himself to the people, the populist rhetoric that is being espoused. You got to nip them in the bud. It's the Democrats are moving more to the left. You can't allow the teeth of the far left to get into them. You just can't.
In this conversation, it's indicative in the Vanguard conversation. It's indicative in the way that you talk about Hassan Piker. It's indicative in the way that you talk about the far left.
Fuck Hassan.
It doesn't matter when people told you about the things that he's done. You said, I don't know that. I need to research it. Anybody who knows the name Hassan Piker knows half a dozen of the bad shit he's done. You plead ignorance.
Okay.
I plead ignorance.
One more question before we end. Destiny.
Wait.
We're getting to the Hassan thing right now. I promise. Let me get to the Hassan thing. I could get to the Hassan thing. You said that you would vote for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Trump over Hassan. Can you explain why?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you said.
The issue that I have with that Twitter thread is that like there's a meaningful difference, and because it was like moving between all of these at some point in time. Of are you talking about casting the deciding vote? Are you talking about who you're more ideologically aligned with? Are you talking about voting for somebody assuming they would have full control of the party, or are you talking about voting for somebody assuming they would have full control of the party and a full backing of the entire government? Like all of these questions have different
Hassan's
answers.
party wins. Hassan wins with Hassan's.
Yeah,
party.
no, but I'm saying like, are you saying like if Hassan were to win and was able to enact a significant portion of his agenda,
Yes.
then I would vote for Trump easily. That's not even a question.
Okay. Why?
Same.
I would give it to Pisco. What about you? Again, Trump.
Yeah.
Hassan.
So first, let me just clarify the question as Stephen did. I never intended to ask that question of Hassan without constraints. I think it's fucking delusional to think that that's how you initially understood that question, given the fact that embedded in your response or initial response.
The other question doesn't make sense, Pisco. The
Let
other question
Pisco
doesn't
answer.
make sense.
Let
Hassan's
Pisco
irrelevant,
answer.
but he wins political power.
So,
If Hassan's irrelevant, but he wins political power, then that vote doesn't fucking matter. So how is that your point?
So the conclusion that Stephen was interpreting that question to be Hassan without constraints is preposterous, given the fact that he was referencing as one of the reasons to vote for Trump over Hassan in that scenario. Trump's
I agree with Connor. The only way this is comparable is if Hassan has political power like Trump. And when it comes down to it, if we're talking about a straight election based off all the principles that we already know that exist, with giving Hassan equal power to like someone like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, he will not get shit done because Hassan doesn't not fucking care about the country, and his ideas will be shot down consistently. So I agree, it has no value if he doesn't have political power.
constraints over the Trump during his constrained period in the 4 years. He said, "Look, Trump wasn't able to accomplish what he did in those 4 years. We haven't had a destroyed country." Clearly, he was referencing Trump with constraints to Hassan with constraints. That's obviously what the question asked. That's what your people understood when they voted
No, the
Hassan.
constraints on Hassan would be significantly greater though than the constraints on Trump.
No, but the whole point is no one was understanding that question. You included when I initially asked it. I mean, without constraint.
Okay, wait. So just to be clear, then, so your question was: would I prefer to elect Donald Trump into a system today where he has undying cult-like support from the entire Republican establishment? Okay, from all the media and from the Supreme Court. Would I prefer Donald Trump to be elected, or would I prefer Hassan Piker, who probably would barely even be able to be sat as president of the United States because even the Democratic Party wouldn't support him?
Sucks.
That way, but no, wait. I want to hear you. That's the question that you were legitimately asking.
So the question I was asking is who you would vote for president of the United States, carrying all the assumptions that you would normally take in any of those situations where, like, when you're asking who you vote for president. I wasn't implying, obviously, complete dictatorial control. Anyone who thinks that that's how that
he's equating current Trump control, not dictatorial. Pisco, you're too smart to not know this. Come on, bro. You're too smart. Come on, lock in, buddy. You got it.
Are you implying a similar level of control of what Trump has now?
I was implying whatever. I was agnostic as to like Congress. I was agnostic as to these.
How can you be agnostic to that? These are the most important things.
No. But what I wasn't asking, and what's clear that you didn't understand.
No, don't say what you want to ask. What was the actual question?
The question was the normal set of assumptions of.
There are no normal set of assumptions. Hassan isn't even a political figure. He's not a politician.
So if I were to ask you who would you vote for, Counterpoints or Trump, how would you answer? You would have a set of assumptions, wouldn't you?
No, I would ask you for clarification. What do you mean? Like assuming
that we're voting for a president of the United States constrained in the normal ways that a president is, and
constrained in the normal ways. Like I don't know if you can do anything. No, stop! It's not being obtuse. Pisco is being obtuse. I'm asking a very clear and obvious question, right? If you're talking about what does it mean to vote for somebody, and you say with the normal constraints, is as I said earlier, Hassan wouldn't be elected. So are you talking about a country that would have the political environment that would elect Hassan Piker? Here, you know what? Here's a better one. Given the same constraints of the system, would you rather have Donald Trump as the president or Stalin as the president?
Yeah, I think probably Trump. Yeah.
Then you agree with me.
Wait, no, I don't agree with you.
What is the
because I think the grounding of your question fucking sucks.
I have no evidence. that Hassan is like Stalin.
I just don't know anything about. Yeah, I mean, like that's just how that's literally his political ideology.
Do you want me to read you the evidence? I can read you the evidence.
No. In the ways that matter. Like Stalin.
Yeah, I can answer that.
So you think that Stalin and Hassan. So Hassan is a genocidal freak. That's what you think.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd say genocide. Hassan is a Stalinist, like a Marxist-Leninist. Yes.
No. But he's not similar. Do you think that Hassan would enact a genocide in this country?
It could happen. Yes.
Hold on.
Yes. What's your evidence that Hassan would enact a genocide
against landlords?
Because they Marxist-Leninists, and because when other vanguard parties are coming to power, like in fucking China and in the Soviet Union, they ended up having genocide.
Just to be clear,
you think that Hassan is pro-genocide in this country?
You realize Hassan?
I don't know what Stalin or Mao were pro-genocide. That's a stupid question. You're trying to do this yes or no shit on complicated politics. You don't understand any of the politics.
Hassan said he wanted to kill landlords. He wanted to kill landlords.
Do you think that Stalin was pro-genocide? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
No, you're retarded. You're an idiot. You're a fucking retard. No, stupid.
Wait, Connor, you agree with that Stalin is pro-genocide, correct?
That's great. He's a Republican.
I believe. Hold on. Holy shit! I can actually answer questions, unlike you, Spurgs. Yeah, Stalin wanted to fucking kill the fuck out of the Ukrainians. However, Pisco, what I'll answer directly to you is that I think if Hassan was put into power the same way that Stalin was, he 100% would create thought crimes. He 100% would incarcerate people without trial. He would 100% do mass executions of ideological enemies, namely capitalists. And I have evidence.
Yeah, he said he wants to kill all the landlords.
He said he
No,
wants to kill all the
not just that. I literally have, in preparation for this debate,
Trump,
I wrote down like
so
30
I'll ask you, Connor, if Trump had total power and he had no checks, do you think he would kill political rivals?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So what's the disparity there?
Okay, hold on. I want an opportunity to answer this question because I feel like you guys are talking past each other, okay? Okay, and I get we're wrapping. All right. So with Trump right now, we have he's a cult-like leader within the Republican Party, but he does have some institutional checks on his power. For the sake of the hypothetical, I presumed in order for Hassan to be of similar power, he would have a similar situation. He's not in total control. We still have Republican checks on the limits of his power, but he has a cult-like following within the left. Okay, that's what I presume. And what I would say is that his sense of isolationism, his sense of pro-terrorism, his sense of wanting to backstab the Western world, him hating mixed economy capitalism, I think he would be just as large of a danger or more of a danger than Donald Trump. And I can back that.
I agree. I literally said this when I was responding to this tweet, or I was just adding my input. I said that I would vote for Hassan knowing that he would not have the capacity to do anything meaningful. But if they both have the same amount of power, I would vote for Trump. Hassan hates the fuck. So Hassan hates America. I want us to all be very clear. He hates America.
That up factually.
Okay. I mean,
it kind of said like 50 times he's a Marxist-Leninist. Like it sounds like openly said that.
Hang on a second. Wait, Destiny. You acknowledge that I never said he wasn't a Marxist-Leninist.
But that's essentially like the blueprint for what Stalin did. Yes, it's the he's on the program like championing like Lenin's literature and shit, like overthrowing states and shit. Yeah,
Stephen. I never said he wasn't a Marxist-Leninist. And when I was talking, I want to address, because you put a video of it where I was like addressing some people who are following Hassan and getting his clips, basically where they were talking about this re-education camps. And what was told to me is this is an example of Hassan explicitly in favor of re-education camps. I want to be clear about something. I have now seen the clips of Hassan calling himself a Marxist-Leninist. People have brought that to my attention. I asked these people, do you have clips of himself calling himself a Marxist-Leninist? What's the evidence? What's the strongest evidence? At no point, and there's even something where explicitly I said this, did I say Hassan wasn't a Marxist-Leninist? And I just want to repeat for like the 10th time, I do not like Hassan Piker. He does.
You don't think he's what would the significant difference between his administration and Stalin's?
Well, because I do think that Hassan,
if we want Lenin instead.
If you take a look at the different personalities, that Stalin seems like a worse overall person, has worse people on his ear. I think that Hassan has some friends who I think are generally like good people like Adam Friedland. People. Okay,
here's a question. First of all,
let me finish. And then in terms of ideology,
in the cabinet.
Wait. I think you agree.
You like Adam defense. Adam Friedland would not be part of Hassan's fucking.
I think culturally, he's much more likely to be more moderate in terms of the genocidal stuff that Stalin was able to get away with because of the American culture. These are
so it would probably result in the next 5 years of some genocide or genocidal
conduct right now.
Why are we talking about a hypothetical version of Hassan doing genocide? Oh man,
Israel conduct right now. Trump is willing to abide.
Would you vote for Trump or Destiny as president?
Israel's
Trump or
conduct
Destiny?
right now. Okay. I would vote for Destiny. I'm honest.
Hold on. No, wait. But hold on. You just said that Stalin being genocidal was a key differentiator between him and Hassan. So Hassan would be genocidal in some cases, right? Depending on who the people are. He probably was into Polish.
Genocide is entailed no matter what.
Sure. And for Stalin, it was, do we have enough crops to feed?
So Alex Piker.
If you want to run the last topic, so like at this point in time, do you admit that there is absolutely zero evidence whatsoever that there was any kind of discriminatory activity towards him in his whole TSA adventure, and then he lied at multiple points about it?
Wait. So I agree he lied, but you and I both agree, didn't you agree that the main reason, the most probable thing that happened on anything else, you said this, was that viewpoint discrimination played a role in his rejection of lecture. You did say that. You said it.
No. We had it on record. No, we were right here. Talk to me. What was the viewpoint discrimination?
Yeah, I'm just saying what you said. What you said was.
No, you need to say what I said. You need to quote me from 2 months ago. I'm right here.
You said something that Hassan said was the most likely reason that he was denied or had his full entry.
That's not viewpoint discrimination, though. That's not viewpoint discrimination. That's content discrimination. If you talk about killing politicians, it doesn't matter. Hold on. Do you think that if Hassan Piker talked about killing Democrats or whatever, that he also wouldn't have been flagged maybe on global entry if he had a tweet blow up about having a Democratic politician?
I'm not sure for the purpose of this.
Wait. You're not sure. You said you were 100% vindicated.
I am vindicated on that. I'm saying I'm not sure as between a Democratic candidate, my what I think would probably happen is that no, he wouldn't be. I don't know is the answer to that. I truly don't know.
But then what's the viewpoint of discrimination?
Let me talk about this, right? So content-based restrictions are also subject to strict scrutiny. Do you know that?
Yes, they can be, but viewpoint discrimination is even stricter. Viewpoint discrimination is almost never going to pass because you're not just saying you can't see your kill politics, you're saying you can't kill a certain type of politician.
my inclination is that if Hassan said that about Bernie Sanders, he wouldn't have had his global entry revoked. That is my inclination, but regardless, it doesn't matter. It's overdetermined. When I say it's overdetermined, I mean it doesn't matter. Like content-based restrictions are subject to strict scrutiny. And
Sure, for laws, sure, yes.
But you,
For
you and I both
expedited entry
agreed.
to global entry, I'm not sure. Probably not.
Let's just be clear about something. You did agree into it. Something he said before was the most likely reason that he had global entry revoked, correct?
Yes. Do you agree that you can say things that maybe would make it worth it having global entry revoked?
Yes, there are certain things you could say that would have it. But okay,
cool.
But
do you think that one of those things might be talking about killing a politician?
Well, it depends if that is a true, if it is a true threat or not. If it's a true threat, no. So for example, so if someone takes something that you said, Stephen, if someone said something that you said, and like what you said, for example, about some of these.
Hold on, let me hedge off here. If I got an email, no, because it's stupid. If I got an email and I found out that I got kicked out of global entry because of what I said about the fucking firefighter or whatever, I'd probably be like, sure, yeah, no shit. You think? Hold on. You think I'm gonna go on the internet? You think I'm gonna be like, oh, I can't believe that I can't make death threats about people, and they're gonna kick me out of the expedited security screening list?
What if they denied you? What if they denied you a gun on the basis of that opinion?
That would be much different. That's a much stronger. Wait, you're talking about. Hold on. You're talking about a constitutionally guaranteed right versus expedited screening through airplane security.
Let's move on. So, what about a driver's license?
No.
Why not,
son? That's declined.
What are they
let me ask you the question. So, with respect to a driver,
I'll be honest. The rest of this conversation is a bunch of yapping. I think Destiny leaves. Oh yeah, Pisco kind of getting cooked in the comment section. Yeah, this was bad for Pisco. I think Econoboi. All right, who won the debate? I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, I don't really care about who won the debate. Who I agree with Destiny and Counterpoints. Now, who performed the best? Econoboi performed the best. Who performed the second best? Counterpoints. Then Destiny. Then Pisco. Shout out. Was that a good conversation? Fuck no. With that said, I hope you guys like and subscribe. Go check out Wick. He has some good panel debates and stuff. With that said, y'all have a good one. Take care. Peace. Hopefully they don't break up. I think I like live and learn. It's the softballing for leftists that's the issue.